I mean, it might be in the minutes. If it's not in the minutes, then we'd have to go listen to the audio recording. I think now we're being more,
Communicating that.
yeah, and probably documenting it better in the minutes, maybe. But yeah.
For future.
Well, some of these though, they change hands too. Does the new owner know? Tell 'em? That's it.
Okay, why don't we skip this? Supervisor Anderson to give these iPad operation. You can't get in the paper, so it tells me I have no reading connection.
Here's public listen. With the comp plan meeting, I wanted to get you.
I don't remember to.
Comp use plan.
All the comments, go tied in with the rest.
Talk with Craig a little bit about the later. Okay. Did it all one time.
Why, thank you.
Forgot where we were.
Thank you.
Future agenda items.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Morning, everyone. It is 9:01 a.m. and we'll call to order the Land Use and Information Committee for June 4th, 2024. Notice has been posted in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 19.84 Open Meeting Law. At this time is reserved for public comments for anyone who has any comments outside of the agenda for conditional use or zoning public hearings. Seeing none, I will continue to entertain a motion to approve the agenda order.
So move.
Motion by Supervisor Chuck Anderson, seconded by Supervisor Mansky. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Now entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of the May 7th, 2024 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 7th meeting.
Meeting by Supervisor Aaron Anderson, second
I'll make a second on that. I would like to offer one possible
amendment.
clarification or improvement.
Sure.
That would be on the very last page, page 505. At the very top there where it says future agenda items. It says land use committee no longer allowing online attendance for the petitioners or the representatives. How about changing the word the to their? So it would be petitioners or their representatives.
So that's also, you could say, land use committee considering this, we had decided we weren't going to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was only,
Let's say, like, we were going to put on a future
Consideration,
agenda to consider this and make that change to their petition or then their representative. Those minutes as amended, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Jason, you wanna, the public hearing?
notice of public hearing, State of Wisconsin, County of Burnett, Tuesday, June fourth, 2024, at 9 a.m. At the Burnett County Government Center in room 165, Town of Meenen, Siren, Wisconsin, regarding the following. Burnett County Land Use Shoreline Protection Ordinances. Number one, conditional use permit CUP 2408 Fuller. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Meenen, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Xavier Fuller has made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use Code of Ordinances to allow outside storage of up to 600 boats on only that portion of the parcel with tax ID 12342 that is currently zoned for commercial use in the C1 zoning district, Lot 1, CSM, Volume 10, page 20, in the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter, Section 33, Town 39 North, Range 16 West. Number two, conditional use permit CUP 2410 Gustafson. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Meenen, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Mike Gustafson has made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use Code of Ordinances to construct a building to be used for rental storage units on the parcel with address 6960 State Road 70 in the A2 zoning district, Lot 3, CSM, Volume 11, page 25, in the southwest quarter of the southwest quarter, Section 34, Town 39 North, Range 16 West. Number three, map amendment MAP 2405, Burnett County Forest. To rezone the west half of the northwest quarter and the west half of the southwest quarter, except CSM Volume 8, page 134, all being in Section 29, to rezone all of Section 30, to rezone government lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and the west half of government lot 9, and that part of government lot 8 lying north of County Road A, the prior location of County Road A, all being in Section 31, Town 40 North, Range 15 West, located in the town of Jackson, from W1 Resource Conservation to F1 Forestry zoning district. Zoning change requested by Susan Tolander on behalf of Burnett County. Number four, conditional use permit CUP 2411 Surnick. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Union, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Scott Surnick has made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances to allow a camping unit for up to 3 years on the parcel located at 27954 County Road FF in the R1 zoning district, Lot 1, CSM, Volume 26, page 281, Section 26, Town 40 North, Range 17 West. Number five, map amendment MAP 2406, Erickson Family Investments LLC and Wisconsin Department of Transportation to rezone Lot 1 and Lot 2, CSM, Volume 13, page 35, in the southwest quarter of the southwest quarter, Section 33, Town 39 North, Range 16 West, located in town of Meenen, from C1 commercial to RRC, residential recreation, recreational commercial zoning district. Zoning change requested by Ken Erickson on behalf of Erickson Family Investments. Number six, conditional use permit CUP 2412, Burnett County Storage LLC. Public notice hereby given to all persons in the town of Webb Lake, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Mark Hubler on behalf of Burnett County Storage LLC made an application for a conditional use permit for the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances to modify CUP 2114 to change the indoor and outdoor storage on the parcel located at 30928 Deer Lake Road in the C1 zoning district, Lot 1, CSM, Volume 28, page 42, Section 18, Town 41 North, Range 14 West.
Okay. So with that, we'll call conditional use permit 2408.
Yeah. You just want to explain your request, basically, for the committee. They all have your materials and all that.
Okay, boat storage would be, I don't know the address exactly, I'm not sure there is one, but right across the road from here. Yeah, just outside boat storage.
Say your name, please.
Xavier Fuller. I I guess, whatever else you guys need, I'm not really sure.
I'll start off with it.
Okay.
I assume we're talking this mostly?
Correct, yep. Yep, yep, yep.
What does it entail? You're gonna have to prepare the site.
No, the site, it's just gonna be all outside storage, so it's not gonna require anything else. Yeah, they're just gonna be parked there for the winter and then gone in early spring, mid-spring. Correct. Yeah, whatever it is right now is what it's gonna stay. It might have to be mowed, but I think during that time, maybe once in the fall, and that would probably be it.
Notice from the town of Meenan comments, they're talking about fencing.
Yep.
How does you interpret that? Your property?
No, me and Chris Cybers just asked a visual barrier between his place and the storage facility.
Fencing and a visual barrier, a screening.
Correct. Opaque, I believe, was the term he used, or something that he didn't have to look at it.
Typically in this kind of thing, they're screening on the highway as well.
Okay.
So with that, rest of the committee, questions you might have?
I have the same question. I guess I would prefer to have more information from the town of Meenan on specifications for what, are they talking about a fence around the whole property, about just one property line in the front, along the road?
Supervisor Cypress is immediately next door to the south. That's his property. So, but it doesn't say that in comments from the town.
Yeah,
But was that just the neighbor's opinion, or was that Meenan's
That's
opinion?
Meenan's.
but what Meenan says is must put up a fence on property line. I guess I would read that to be the whole property line.
That's what I would agree, that's why I'm raising the issue.
Yeah, I interpreted just his property line. I guess that's what I came away with from the meeting.
You have concerns about city, fencing properties that you're storing from vandalism or theft, right?
I can understand it both ways. I worry about, if it's something I can't see from the road, it also opens it up to people in there without knowing anybody, somebody's in there. I guess that's what insurance is for and stuff like that. I guess I'm not sure.
We talked to other storage type facilities.
Mhm.
Security has some cameras. We can tell somebody's there is not supposed to be there.
Yeah,
So, out of the buildings.
correct.
I would think that your people that are gonna come in storage would want security.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody,
Field next to county road.
yeah, and maybe being across from the government building might deter something, but
Yeah. It's not necessarily.
no, I mean, I wouldn't depend on that either.
Just a couple of comments. I think this is a pretty eye-opening issue for me. We're talking about what other people deem as being secure for their property being stored at this facility. That's not for us to determine. They should be able to look at that property and say, well, yeah, I trust my stuff to be there, or I don't. When it comes to security, I think all of our citizens pay for security now, right across from the government center. For mowing, I don't see that needed to be done. It's not being mowed now. I would trust that, anybody that opens a business or wants to start a business, they directly know already, I would think, that the appearance of their property will either take away from their ability to conduct business or not, based on it looking like a pig pen. So I guess I'm in favor of it, so that's my thoughts on it.
Mark Rosie, Wagner Surveying.
Let's finish.
Okay.
Sorry, let's finish the committee session.
I was just looking at, the comments from, the DNR stormwater permit for the excavating, would there would there be any impervious, surfaces or buildings?
No. Oh, sorry.
I mean, that's part of the reason I was asking him about the surfaces, because it doesn't require any permits from DNR, it leaves it vegetated. But if you would wanted to gravel it, that would require a permit from them.
Is there a concern, or does it matter if it's year-round or just winter?
Well,
I mean, is that specified in the condition of?
yeah, presumption on both, I just, not necessarily, they have to be gone in the summer, it could remain stored, I'm sure. But, I think the theory is mostly winter.
Correct. Yep.
No further questions about the committee?
driveway
there already?
There's already an existing driveway, yes.
Question be me on that. You'll see that that's the only access to the property though, so you will be working, then I'm sure Ken will talk in a moment about that has to be planned as the access to this commercial site. If you're gonna use the entire width of the commercial site for now.
Yes,
Right. And you're leasing it, not buying it?
leasing, correct.
Long-term plan to buy it?
It's up in the air, but just for now, it's just a lease.
You only put some, screening along the highway?
I guess my question is, I mean, it's like probably a 5-foot elevation change to where, I mean, I'm gonna have to do what you guys tell me to do, but it's probably a 5-foot elevation change from the road to where the fence would be, so I don't know how high the fence would need to be to any sort of visual screen.
Doesn't have to be a fence.
Trees or, yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to something like that, it's just how much does it need to be, and, you know,
Typically, that's like 2 or 3 rows, anchored gap, like red pines mixed with balsams, for example.
okay,
Triangles, inverted triangles. Filter belt is designed that in a reasonable size to grow fairly fast, but not so big that you,
yeah, mm-hmm,
reasonable.
okay,
Good news around here, it's a kind of a shallow to groundwater site, so if you should grow,
yeah, yeah,
that's pretty typical for meaning just for.
mm-hmm,
And it does kind of help show that there's not something there to go with, which you could find there by somebody gotten by.
yeah.
Anyway, any other committee questions?
Just, you're talking 600 boats, are they gonna be jammed?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't anticipate,
Are you gonna have, like, phases down in case something happens that are emergency cruises?
yeah, there'd have to, I mean, we'd have to have a road between each row, or a spot to drive so we can pull boats out.
That's our path.
Yeah, a path, sorry. Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
It'd be wide enough for.
yeah, it'd have to be wide enough, so, I mean, when you put boats in there, I mean, they don't all leave at the same time, so you have to be able to get one boat out at a time, and, so there would be a path, I guess, between each row. Yeah,
Other questions from the committee at this
I
point?
have one.
Go ahead.
You know, tourism is very important to the county. And for me, I can't understand why somebody would start a business like this if there wasn't a need for it. I mean, to support tourism in the county and to have a facility like this available, I think it's very important. The fencing's a good recommendation. I don't think it should be a requirement. Planting trees takes up usable space that you could use for something else, so on and so forth. But that's a recommendation, I'd support it, but not as a requirement. But, yeah, that's my comment.
Further questions, I'll open, we reserve the right to call you back
sure,
to address any.
yeah,
Now.
all righty.
Open a public hearing and then, come forward, and identify yourself and use up your 3 minutes.
Mark Krause from Wagner Surveying. I just happened to be at the meetings because Ken Erickson's property was part of the discussion. The committee is brand new. They didn't know really what they're doing, to be honest. They didn't have an application, and so when he made this application in February, they didn't hear it, or they didn't even know what to do. He didn't know he was supposed to even present it. And so it's been a big, he basically filled in the application in front of the meeting at the last one. They had the information. They didn't really know what questions to ask or answer. The only requirement or request was through Chris Cybers, the neighbor, that they have screening on between him and the neighbor. So they would block the view, especially from the house area. As you know, the commercial goes about 600 feet back. Mr. Erickson owns a lot more land behind there. So I don't think there was an intent to fence the property. You know, there isn't a property line. The property line goes way back. The other question is on the highway. Ken has been dealing with the DOT about access, whether it's one or two. There's multiple properties there. Putting screening in the front is probably not a good idea at this time for him or anybody else, because there may need to be a frontage road and so forth there, or dual access or some type of situation that has not been decided yet. Nor, I don't know if this will be part of this request. And like he said, as you go out there, the highway is up here. The land is quite a bit lower, so the highway is elevated in front of the courthouse here. So it'd be very difficult to screen that back 40 without a 12 or 15 foot high fence, probably. I don't know how practical that is. I can definitely see it on the sides, on the property line and that. They did leave a row of trees along there too, so there is natural trees growing on the property line. So my assumption was the fence would be in a little ways from there, so they don't cut any more trees. And I guess that would be my recommendation from the committee, is to leave the natural vegetation that's there and then put a fence in there along that line at minimum. There's some other things they could do long-term, but I think this is a piece of property in transition, and I don't know what stipulations you can put on it that would be, long-term type of thing that's going to be beneficial right away. I can understand the visual effect the county wants to eliminate, minimize or whatever too, but I don't know really a good way to do that right at this time, but that's just my comments. Thank you.
Ken, I'm gonna call you up.
I'm Kenneth Erickson. I think most of you guys know me. I own the property that Xavier is gonna be leasing, and from my point of view, the fence, I understand probably the world doesn't wanna look at these boats every day. It's only in the wintertime. Our traffic count is down. The other thing is, in the future, as hopefully his business grows, I can foresee there being potentially some docks, some boat lifts maybe for sale. Eventually, there's probably gonna be a building, with any luck at all, it's gonna expand. So that's all I have, really. Yeah.
This is hypothetical, but he's gonna lease it from you, but you are gonna remain the owner for the foreseeable future.
Correct.
That's Jason to kind of weigh in on this too, but typically when there's some kind of a violation or something happens, or he leaves the country, not that it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But then you become the responsible party for property if there's a.
Right.
I would, I believe, remain the case.
Right. Oh, 100%, yeah.
You don't just.
No, I don't disagree with it at all. And I'm not, we've had discussions, in the spring of the year when the plastic comes off the boats, it's not gonna lay on the ground. There'll be roll-off dumpsters there. You guys have driven by my properties. I don't like junk. I like nice, neat, clean. So if I drive by and see it, trust me, I'll be all over them.
That's a hard thing to get a grip on from a condition.
Sure.
Has to remain
Well,
clean.
I mean,
Make a condition that remains clean to Ken's standards.
right. Well, you can assure that I'll be there. I mean, I drive by there 5 times a day now, so.
I have confidence. Is,
Well, if he doesn't, then it falls on me, Mm-hmm.
we still remain.
Sure.
Or nuisance or whatever.
Yep.
You agree with that, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
That's the same.
Yeah, and we're all gonna see it every day, so I guess we'll know if something's out of line.
100%, right. I'm only a phone call away. I'm down the road. It's less than a mile. I think that's, anybody else got questions?
Any further quick comment? Go ahead.
I have a question for Xavier. We're talking about boat storage. So I bring my boat, you store it for the winter, and I show up in the spring and I say, I wanna pick up my boat and I wanna leave my snowmobile trailer here, my snowmobiles.
I'm not set up for that. I don't wanna be,
There's if there's something there stored in the summer, it's gonna be a boat. No camper trailers.
I, just foresee it as boat storage.
Well, his CUP says boat, so boat.
Just wanna make sure that we're just talking boats.
Limit.
Is this gonna be just seasonal then? There's not gonna be anything there in the summer?
I would guess unless there's some rogue person that's not picking their stuff up, but that would fall on me to get that out of there.
You have a approximate date frame, you would imagine, of boats would be coming in October probably?
Yes, I would say late August, you know, some people just stay here for a good part of the year and get out of here. So I'd say mid to late August, all the way till November, when they're coming in.
Maybe you'd be gone in the spring, by the middle of May.
That all varies, I mean, sometimes the late ice out and,
This year doesn't count.
yeah, exactly. I would say by June, somewhere around now is when they're typically just about all gone.
I was thinking of nominal dates. But again, we don't wanna be up there chalking tires, I don't think.
Well, and plus, like you said, you have, maybe they don't come and use their cabin for the summer, so they just leave their boats there all year. What's gonna happen?
Somebody could have health issues or for whatever reason, be out of the country or whatever.
This, you know, this is a comment, this is sort of shaping up because it's sort of unique, it's a sort of conditional use that we might want to, if we approve it, put a revisit date on after a year or two and see how it's going, or how it shaped up, you know? You're breaking new ground here, no one's done anything this big.
Yeah,
Storage. Quickly with commercial outdoor storage, we've been screening, because it's been everything, not just boats.
yeah,
That's the elements that are different.
yeah.
They decide to, start selling boat lifts and docks and have them out there for signs on for sale. They have to come get another permit, because right now we're just saying boat storage.
Well, it is zoned commercial, but I think it says if you start doing outdoor commercial activity, then you would need a conditional use permit.
We'd have to address that, I guess, if the time comes.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Just because you got a few boats in there, you can't put a dock out there for sale.
Here's what I'm looking at. You will, us offering, you offer conditions that we can accept. And let's say we start this, that you're exclusively boats, that there won't be any incidental, you know, other activities on it. If you want to expand the retail sales of something, we'll require revisiting or amendment to your conditions.
Okay,
Does that work for you?
yeah, that can work for me.
The screening part, I kind of get the screening part, I think. I absolutely have to screen the south property line. That's, I'll ask for that. Private owner there, that makes sense. Highway is harder, because the uncertainty is to access. And I think that's something we may want to revisit if we feel screening is appropriate. My thoughts.
Is there a suggestion for partial screening? I mean, just aesthetically, you know, because I agree with the tourism thing, but part of tourism is driving through a beautiful area. And, you know, anything we can do to, you know, hopefully satisfy both somehow, you know, because meeting a need,
Yeah,
and can we even a little bit more pleasing?
I think I don't want to kick the can down the road again to have you come back with somewhat of a screening plan. Corners where you're
yeah,
not going to have the road. But, I think we could hire that you to provide some screening as practical. Or maybe just a few clumps of trees at this point along the edge of the right of way where they're not likely to be in the way. What I'm trying to get at. Subjective, I know. It's not.
yeah,
Imagine on the south line, they're turning a little bit to the north. There's a bit of a, perhaps on the north side similarly, probably, you know, just on the corner, kind of as a somewhat of a view shed. But I can't, we're not operating with a proposed plan here. That's what makes it harder.
I'll just put in my, opinion, I like things specific.
Yeah.
Because if we just do some sort of screening and then people call and complain to me about if it's vague, then I can't say yes or no, they're complying. So-
That's just what I'm trying to wrestle with.
Yeah,
We can make an absolute screening thing, but we don't have a detailed enough plan to know where there is, access proposed or finalized, right? What is the thought on that? Is that DOT going to limit a single point and then, as Mark suggested, perhaps a frontage road or something in the future, or any idea?
I could address that a little bit. There's 2 legal permitted accesses on it, but it's a limited highway access, and they're trying to take one away, to be honest with you. And so, but there's 2 separate properties. That's one reason why the properties have stepped separate, because they've not come to any agreement, or there's different opinions, of course, like always. I could see a little partial screen in the front. Also, the other thing I'd recommend, maybe the committee could have this as part of their solution, is that any of these boats that might linger would be put to the back, or maybe have a little bit of a shelter in the back so that they're more out of view for the summer months or the off season. I'm sure that Xavier would be willing to do something like that, where you put it on the back part of the property instead of leaving it up front where it's more visible. So I think there's some common sense type of things that they can do on that, as far as making that isn't really a rule, but it's good common sense, I guess.
I'm thinking that would be sort of a strong suggestion as opposed to the absolute requirement. Yeah. Sort of as what Supervisor Tucker said. But my thinking right now is I think the town is in support. I think we could do it. But I'm tempted to put a condition that we revisit this in a year or so to resolve whether screening is, what extent screening is required.
I guess my thought would be maybe more than a year, maybe like 3 years.
No, that's okay.
Because, I don't think there's gonna be 600 boats dropped out there, the first day you start business.
Yeah. That may be the very best way.
And then maybe we kind of get a nice feel for how it looks, and
But we're trying to accommodate what you want to do, but at the same time, not create something that we say, oh, we screwed up and now we have to go back and try to fix it. So if we let you get started and evaluate it, and 2 years is okay with me. We have one more election, I might not even be here. Anyway, okay, aside, I think that sounds reasonable from a staff, bring it back point of view, that we could do.
Something nice to consider maybe is, signage also provides screening. Maybe it'd be open to promoting tourism in the county while also promoting his business and store boats there at the same time, with a message of how beautiful the county is, that was up to him to do. But there are ways to work together between tourism and storing boats.
I think that, one can plan on boats being left, during the summer and stuff, that, you get 600 boats out there, not everybody's gonna get them all out of there all at one time. I'm sure there's gonna be boats left behind, throughout the summer. So one, might as well plan on having a few boats out there, all summer long.
I don't think we're gonna set a limit on that. See us, that's the discussion we've had.
Right.
I think we would say we'd like you to voluntarily try to relocate them to be as unobtrusive as possible for the first 3 years.
Right.
And we'll revisit this in 3 years. And in fact, now, we haven't made a motion yet, we're just
Right. Yep.
hypothesis of how we would do that. But
Right, and then, if you're talking, that screen fencing, if it's gonna end up being tall, I see wind taking it down. It's gonna be an issue.
vegetative one is usually the best, really.
Yeah.
It's like the old shelter belt sort of thing, and if we can say, okay, there's a few places where it would be really good, now that we know where the roads are gonna be. We've created some attractive landscaping of some plantings that look good and are maintainable, and I'm sure they'll go. So we get the best of both worlds if we do it right. I've talked enough, I'd entertain a motion,
I'd like to make a motion.
I'll second it.
motion by,
I've got conditions first.
motion by Supervisor Kaminsky,
With the following conditions. First, that the fencing condition set forth by the town of Minon is satisfied. Work with the town,
Yeah.
figure out where that fence is, what it is, that kind of thing.
can I suggest it's like,
Yep.
ask the town to define, do they mean a privacy shelter fence, or do they mean opaque vegetated screening? I don't know what they meant.
Well, it says fencing,
Fencing would be a fence.
in my eyes, that's a fence.
Yeah, I agree, that's what they said, but that isn't what Mark, we have to read, it sounds like they were.
I think they figured out a fence, that's what
Okay, look,
Yeah.
if that's, then I'll change my view, I wasn't sure from that.
And that's kind of why I said satisfied. So if you work with them, if they're happy with trees, then plant trees. If they're,
But require that you use, permit specifications of pick fencing about 6 feet high. And verify that that's what the town,
So I'll work with them.
so,
Okay.
we're gonna say that, but subject to the town,
Yeah, okay.
agreeing that that's what they.
Okay.
Fencing could be, barbed wire.
condition number 2, you need a site address. Condition number 3, follow all sign regulations. Condition number 4, follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements. And condition number 5, we will revisit this CUP in 3 years regarding the screening along Highway 35.
Motion by Supervisor Szymanski, second.
I'll second it.
Second by Supervisor, better be a lawyer. Easy, but I couldn't see the lawyer, sorry. Okay, any further discussion?
Just one thing to add, as far as this compliance with the township, are we asking Mr. Town to make sure that the town is okay with this, how it's done?
We're asking both the applicant to confirm what they want and him to tell
Okay.
Jason what they
All right,
said.
thank you.
And we'll clarify that with a note into the file as to what was determined.
Yeah, I would hope the town of Meehan would give me an email that says we want fencing this long, this high, in this location.
Okay.
We're understanding.
We throw it in the file and.
New committee at the town and I'm trying to clarify. Okay, any further discussion? Ken?
I have one more thing. I'm assuming he's gonna have a couple pontoon trailers that's used for delivering boats that probably will be left there over the summer, but you guys, I don't think will see it. They'll be back throwing up in the grass. But I just wanna mention that, so.
Out of sight, out of mind. For
Yeah.
now, in 3 years, we'll decide if they were a problem.
Do we need to put that in the, conditions that, once the summer season begins, all leftovers be moved to the back of the lot?
Not yet. We're gonna trust that between Ken and Xavier, they'll do that. And then
So
3
when we
years.
revisit this in 3 years, if they didn't.
If it's a problem, we will address it then.
Do we need to specify number of votes?
No, it's in the
Yeah,
app.
we just,
Application.
that's in the
The
application,
application stated up to 600.
and the application basically stated votes, and then the obvious trailers. That
Yep.
would- okay.
Any further discussion, any other questions? Roll call vote. Supervisor Tucker,
Yes.
Supervisor Moyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Blumberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Chuckett,
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Lockwood,
Yes,
Supervisor Conrad, yes.
And yes,
Karen? Oh, I'm sorry, at least you had his phone. Supervisor Szymanski.
always leaving the poll lights out.
You did say yes, right? Yeah. Sorry about that. Motion's carried.
Thanks, Xavier.
Thank you.
Conditional use permit 2010, Gustafson. Here. Step forward.
You wanna just basically explain your request?
Yeah, just, looking at putting in 20 storage units off of Highway 70 at 69, I think it's 699, yeah, Highway 70. Kind of drawn in, or it's in the back, kind of by the campgrounds back there. Basically for, if the campers there wanna leave their four-wheelers or boats or anything there, they have a place pretty much on site that they can put their stuff.
I'm noticing a couple of things with this one. And I'm still not caught up to your permit. The issue is, resolve the DOT, how you want to.
Yeah, they're gonna have, we can cut a road in on the existing driveway along the property line with an exception that we have to cut a road in from Cougar just in case they ever exempt that the road is too busy and you can't use that access anymore.
You have to solve.
Yes.
The other one is the town of Meehan has not yet.
Yeah, I guess I got ahead of that. I didn't know, the first time doing this, so,
The first time we've been
Yeah.
and so, in the interest of supporting the town, I tend to want to have you get that confirmation from them.
And I had talked to Chris on the phone prior to this, and he was in favor of it, but I guess I still have to go through the chain of going through Meehan, but,
Again, I don't like to kick it down the road.
right,
I think you could postpone completing this public hearing till next month in order for the town to have weighed in if it has any.
They're a new committee.
Yeah, they've started, established a new kind of a planning
Oh.
committee to work with these views of their plans of their comp plan and zoning and whatnot. So they, I doubt that, I almost certainly think they would approve it. Continue today, subject to them not vetoing it, but that's what.
right.
I think the right thing for us to do is postpone it, you could meet with them, to resolve the major concern, way that makes sense. Still use Highway 70, and not do the Hoover Road one, and let's do it after in the future, right?
No, they said we had to do it at the same time, so both roads will have to be put in, yeah.
I noticed in your comments that you had, for security, for 7.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're planning like the Hoover one then, and is it only at need, or?
Probably, yeah, that would be, because it's just, yeah, no way to, like, they'd have to go past our rental house there to be able to, you know, get in there, and if off Cougar, there's no one to watch it, and, I mean, obviously, it'll still be locked, the doors will, but still.
I understand, I mean, that's the reason, but it's harder if you have a, well, we should save this for the next meeting, kind of clarity on that.
Well, I can't renotice this. I think I can renotice it in time to meet the posting. If we're gonna redo the public hearing, so,
Well, okay, let's,
so do you wanna have the public hearing now and then postpone the decision?
interesting idea, we've never done that before. Again, that I remember.
Yeah,
The other one I was thinking of is, let's go ahead, if we think it's reasonable, and notify Meehan that we went ahead and approved it, but of course, then we can't reverse it.
well, I wonder if you did subject to Meenan's approval or something,
Right?
as a
Okay,
condition.
Yeah, let's do that then, let's continue, because it's pretty innocuous.
Yeah,
Let's continue with, and simply state that if the town of Meehan objects, we will revisit.
yeah, you could revisit it, yep.
And if the town of Meehan is satisfied, then we will. Okay. So I think we've answered most of the questions, if you might ramble in here. Your primary intent is coming off 70, we will, because DOT wants to have the option of approving it.
Yep,
The road available, it will be developed, but it'll probably be gated.
right,
That's perhaps something.
yeah.
Okay. So that's my question. Other committee members have any further questions?
I have a DOT question, just looking at the correspondence. Is there already existing access and that's just what's going to be improved?
Yeah, there's an existing driveway for the rental property, it'll just join that and go around it to the property line. So it'll still be one access, and the roads will combine before getting to the highway.
We'll have, one driveway onto Highway 70, then I'm envisioning you go north to the rental, you're gonna go right,
Yeah, go around it.
New driveway, go around the garage to kind of on the east property line. Back to the storage units, rather than driving through the yard of the rental to get back to the storage units.
And not relocating it entirely to the east property.
Yes,
Contact point at 70 is the same.
Yep.
And it just turns off.
Right.
Any other committee questions? Yeah, same as we did before, we'll have you return to your seat, we'll open a public hearing, we'll call you back if we need to.
And what, get your name, please?
Mike Gustafson. Okay.
Open the public hearing, is there any public comment on this request by anyone? Hearing none, open it for committee discussion.
So has the public hearing been closed now?
Yeah, sorry, close the public hearing. I think the questions that I had, I posed earlier, and I'm satisfied with the answer. Going to be located pretty far back off the highway, so if you're okay screening, not much of an issue. And obviously, the campground doesn't want you to screen from them. You're going to have a private access back and forth to the campground.
Yeah, we'll have to talk with them, but I'm assuming, yeah, we'll probably in the one far back corner have some access to the campground. I'm assuming that, or hoping anyway, that's where the business is coming from.
You provide it if they want it.
Yeah.
Natural, because why would you wanna go out on 70?
Right.
Go down a couple blocks and then go back on.
Looking at the air photo of the property, it's forested. So with natural screening, I guess we would probably say maintain that where appropriate, so from the other adjoining properties, that kind of thing. But you're not gonna clear any more than minimally necessary.
No. The one I need is pretty much all open, ever did anyway.
Because you get a fairly extensive DOT correspondence. Do we have anything more recent than what we have in the packet from DOT?
I don't have anything more
We
recent.
got like a final,
Good to have that for the record.
I was gonna say, I was gonna probably reach out to DOT to get whatever you have in writing, I'll take it, add it to the file here. But, so,
We can send him back a copy or it wasn't made yet.
says attaches a copy of the permit for existing connection to Highway 70 in the town of Meenan. Following special provisions apply. This permit is issued with a waiver to standard for spacing based on analysis of site-specific conditions. Under Wisconsin Trans 231012, driveway maintenance is the responsibility of the property owner. A condition of approval for this connection is access to Kruger Road must be constructed to help facilitate the site should this property ever lose direct connection to the highway. And the next one, any proposed change in land use, traffic volume, or type of vehicles utilizing this connection for the purposes other than its permitted use will require the property owners to contact the Department of Transportation to obtain a new permit.
If it's gonna have an access from Kruger Road, could we sign it from Kruger Road? Or should it be signed, an additional sign?
For an address,
Yeah.
well, it sounds like they're gonna use 70 as the access point. could have its own I mean, it could use the address as the rental, or it could have its own. I guess it really, with it having the same driveway access point, I guess I don't really care. Emergency service is gonna go to the same point.
It's fairly
Find
far
it.
away from the structure.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be 200 or 300 feet away from the house, probably.
Maybe should have its own address, and for your own
And if they're coming off, if they end up coming off of Kruger Road, they would need an address coming off there, right?
If they ever close the Highway 70 access, yeah. But I don't see that being likely, probably based on the letter.
No, I don't, I kind of think it would be, practice has been, because it's theoretically possible to separate this, if you were going to sell it to somebody else, they just kept an easement road in there, that it could have a separate address because it's not the same ownership. Otherwise, it's a structure without an identifier. That's kind of a nebulous argument. That would happen if you sold it, probably, though.
If you split it off, then we'd definitely say it would need its own address, because it's a parcel with no
We
address.
catch it then, there's no reason to sign. So, any no further discussion in the committee, I'd entertain a motion.
I make motion to approve the conditional use permit.
I was talking to, but the consider of the items to be included in the motion at the end, it's,
Yes, sir.
items 1 through 6. Any additional,
You want me to read them real quick, so they're on the record?
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, need a site address. If the access is from Kruger Road, it's not going to be, so we would say it doesn't need one. Septic system be serviced and reported to the county by 9/1/24. Resolve access concerns with DOT. Obtain land use permit prior to construction. Follow all sign regulations. Follow all local, county, state, federal requirements for this activity. And then 7, do you want to add town of Meenan,
yes,
approval?
Yeah. With that amendment.
Subject to town of Meenan
Town of
approval.
Meenan approval. Right there.
Yes, sir.
And Supervisor Tucker's motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor Chuck Anderson. Any further discussion?
I just had a question. The Department of Transportation Communication, did it say there had to be access from Kruger? And do we need to reference that, or is that covered by, they have to follow all?
Well, it's covered by the one that says follow all local, county, state, federal requirements, so that would cover it to begin with.
Resolve access.
Yeah,
That's how they resolved it, hired that additional option.
it does say, must be constructed to help facilitate the site of this property ever lose direct connection. So it sounds like they just have to construct the driveway onto Kruger Road, but they don't have to essentially use it.
Yeah, they don't have to use
Yeah.
So, and as you said, you probably make it available busy weekends or something, but not always.
it. That would make it easy for the Highway 70 campground, because they also use Kruger Road. If they could get on there and then over to the storage facility off that road.
Or directly from the campground if they decide to, but that's up to them, you know, I don't care about that. Okay,
Is there a need we discuss maintaining some screening? But I don't know if we need to be specific.
Well, if you look at the aerial photo, it's going in that kind of open spot that's behind those trees there. You already have 100 camping units sitting in a field with no screening next to it, which those items are closer to the highway than he already is going to be. I'll just leave it at that. You guys then
some
decide
of the
which one.
adjoining, that's what I said earlier,
Yeah.
the adjoining properties to the west, there's hundreds of feet of screening,
Yeah.
and there's no intention of doing anything more than electric logging or something.
And if they ever wanted to build more storage units, you'd have to come back to amend the conditional use permit. So if he then wanted to cut a bunch,
And that's when we need to.
yeah, if he was gonna clear cut it all and build 30 units or 30 buildings, then
There's adequate screening present.
Well, but no one needs, there's adequate, but no one needs permission to clear cut the lot.
No, I guess, should there be timber harvest on the property?
I think that'd be reasonable, and I don't know, would that be an amendment to the motion?
That'd be an amendment.
How do I do that?
Offer an amendment to add number 8, which would be a minimum vegetative screening should be maintained.
I don't know what minimum, maybe retaining,
Well, he's gonna cut some of the trees down, because he's gonna put a new driveway along the
Right.
east side of the property line. So,
how do we be specific? I mean, there's currently some trees there, and leave X number of feet of trees other than driveway access,
Like any trees. Getting into the trouble of defining what.
no, but I'm
No,
saying we're
on the
in,
other-
from Highway 70 to
Yeah,
the,
there may be a couple trees in the corner there,
because you're gonna cut a row or driveway in there.
but it's pretty much right to the back of those sheds almost. There might be a couple trees in there, but they'd have to go just for the road.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, you're gonna cut a few for the road, so that's why if they put a condition that said maintain existing screening, well, I don't know how you do that when you have to put a road through there.
There'd be barely enough room.
So,
You're gonna see it from Highway 70,
yes, you will see it from Highway 70
if you look through the camper.
if you look through the campgrounds.
Somewhere. So it'll be visible from across all the campers from 70, but what I was more concerned about was over here, where the dwellings are, just on separate lots, and there's gonna be plenty of screen from them.
let's maintain
But the-
in between the houses, by the house.
They have their own screening too.
Yeah, I think we probably don't need it,
Okay,
obviously,
I withdraw that amendment.
we're good. We needed to consider it, but we're not gonna go there. Okay, any further discussion? Roll call motion then. Supervisor Tucker,
Yes.
Supervisor Loiter,
Yes.
Supervisor Szymanski,
Yes.
Francis Blumberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Henderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Carol Aquaman,
Yes.
Supervisor Conroy, yes.
Yeah, just make sure you get in touch with the town meeting then.
Yep, yeah, it's scheduled for June 12th or something like that.
Coming up. Okay, on to additional use 2411.
You're under rezone,
Oh, I'm sorry,
skip Suzie.
Susie's been here long enough, get her out, get her back to work. Chase down Marshall's from the rain.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm Susie Tolander, Burnett County Forest and Parks, and we have a request to rezone a block of county forest from resource conservation to forestry. The block is about 1,500 acres, a little more. It was formerly the Keyser Lake Wildlife Area. It was obtained by the county from the state in a land trade back in 2015. So we're looking to rezone because the majority of our county forest is zoned forestry. The property also has 2 primitive campsites, and the county has budgeted to put in 2 more. The ones that are there were grandfathered in, but we are not allowed to put in any more under the Resource Conservation District. So we're looking to rezone to forestry, and then we would come back with a conditional use request for campsites.
And just to make, nothing more than to make it consistent with the rest of the county forest.
That'll make it easier for bike trails and things like that.
We currently have bike trails on the property. There's a snowmobile trail that runs through and some other woods trails. So I don't believe that has an impact.
No, but I mean, that'll stay with it.
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Just like the state land tends to be sold conservancy, and not state land anymore. And I think the Namakagon Barrens that the state got still going for it. They haven't wanted to change it. Good. Any further questions on the committee? Open the public hearing. Does anyone have any further input on this one? no one here, so I will close the public hearing on that and open it for committee discussion.
I think it opens it up to more tourism by maybe being able to put in a couple more primitive campgrounds.
Whether perhaps,
Maybe even a camper cabin in the future.
I don't know what I'm talking about, but those options become available. But it's, yeah, this is just kind of a bookkeeping, housekeeping, whatever you want to call it. For further discussion, committee, I'll entertain a motion.
Move.
Motion by Supervisor Chuck Anderson.
Second.
By Supervisor Blomberg.
I'd like to add the one condition, follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity.
Safe to say we'll do that, yes.
Correct, now what we're doing is approving and then we're, moving it forward to the full county board.
County board.
Yep.
Further discussion? Roll call vote. Supervisor Tucker?
Yes.
Supervisor Moyer?
Yes.
Supervisor Shamans?
Yes.
Supervisor Blomberg?
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson?
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Wolford Henderson?
Yes.
Under, yes.
When you call the person that's drawing up the cabin plan?
This is our next.
Next person's online.
Okay.
So we'll bring that to county board in a couple weeks. So.
This is the conditional use permit I started to talk about for 3 years for Spirit.
He's on the phone.
He's on the phone. Can you hear us?
Hey, Scott, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Can you go ahead and explain your request, please?
Requesting a 3-year RV permit for a parcel.
This is, the second time you've heard from me?
Yes, this will be our second request, correct.
So, and I see in your application that you intend to build this.
Second for him.
Second for him, so it's the third for the
Third
property.
overall, but third for the property, second for him, okay, good. I'm clear on that.
So,
You intend to build in the next 2 or 3 years?
Yes, we are currently working with a contractor and drafter of drawing up some cabin plans currently.
The reason I ask is that we have, tended to not extend these more than 2 or 3 times, and that's why it's good to hear that you're already in the process of building.
That is correct, yes.
Any further questions by the committee?
I'll just have to put a limit or is it just automatically?
well, it'll be 3 years if you don't limit it differently. So,
Sounds like he's underway, but not fully done for 3 years. I don't see any harm in making it, if he gets the cabin built sooner, good.
Correct, yes.
Go ahead.
No, you're fine, go ahead, yes, that was our intention, hopefully get it done before 3.
Have you started anything yet?
Just meeting with the numerous contractors and working with the drafter.
And we've done some excavating.
Yes, and,
Prep for it.
yes, prepping, excavating, correct, yeah.
and they have a sewer system in there already too.
But,
And the sewer system would be adequate for what they want to build?
Yes.
It needs to be.
Yeah, I can't remember what size, 3-bedroom sewer is what's in there, so they could build up to a 3-bedroom house.
Should be fine. Any further committee questions? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to this issue? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Further committee discussion?
think just a general discussion, you know, when this has come up in the past, we've discussed, and I think maybe we've made it a future agenda item, what the intention is of the county, because I don't know if this current committee has discussed, the intention of a 3-year camping permit. My understanding is it was to, help facilitate, you know, people building a permanent structure. And I guess that discussion will happen at a future meeting where we're potentially discussing how many times does it get renewed? Like what is the intention of it? I mean, this one seems pretty straightforward. He's already got the work in progress, but, just something to be thinking about, I think, for extra requests.
Only seeing my staff report, I listed, 2 recent ones that you guys did modify. So,
I think, and again, that's a discussion for future agenda.
yeah, and that's a committee decision ultimately.
If the committee wanted to kind of formalize a policy about it, we could into that. Now, this one, there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to, approve the CUP or forward it, for approval to the county.
Nope.
No, this one is not a rezone, this is
Yep.
CUP. To approve the CUP, with the condition 1, only 1 camper allowed on the parcel, and 2, follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity.
But I would perhaps add without the condition that sure the applicant's aware that there's no guarantee we would approve fourth one. We haven't said that. For a second?
Second.
Second by Supervisor. Sorry, yes, it's got my throat. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Roll call vote or no?
We didn't do a roll call.
Yeah.
I'll just start that, but I got a little congestion in my throat, I couldn't get the words out here. Supervisor Tucker,
Yes.
Supervisor Moyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Shabansky,
Yes.
Supervisor Blomberg,
Yeah.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Lockwood,
Yes.
Supervisor Conroy, yes. So, carry on with the building project.
Make sure you
We
get,
will.
All right. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next, we have the rezone for Erickson Family Investments under Wisconsin DOT. You get to come up again, Ken.
Kenneth Erickson. I'm here today to apply for a rezone of a piece of property that I own, under Erickson Family Investments, I think is the name it's under. Anyway, the reason I'm asking for a rezone is someday in the near future, I would like to apply to put a small campground on that property. And the way it's zoned currently, it's absolutely not an option. So I've reached out to the DOT, because I have less than 10 acres of land, to see if they would have any issues with rezoning their land that adjoins mine. And they said absolutely not. They have no problem whatsoever. And there's been emails back and forth to prove that I'm not just making this up, obviously.
I remember this, there was some confusion over what you intended to do, and that email show that,
Yep.
all clarified.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Just for the benefit of the new members of the committee, who may not have been here when this thing started to be, is that when we created the floating RRRC district, set a minimum amount of land to be zoned to it of 10 acres, simply because to avoid the situation of spot zoning, which is viewed as improper regulatorily. So it's a large enough tract to be a meaningful zoning change for this mixed-use district that we created. And the DOT's land is acquired to manage water is what's owned commercial. So they didn't care what kind of commercial it is. It's going to remain as a place for runoff.
Right.
Managed from the roundabout.
Yep.
So, perfectly appropriate to do that. I wasn't sure when we started talking about this, if some local government, whether county board supervisor or the town, needed to be part of the petition, but it didn't. We were able to ask the petition, so someone else's land.
Right.
It's a legislative act by the county to change the zoning. So, that said, now know why we're here, and, appears to be consistent with the town of Neenah's plan. It's actually a less, dense type of commercial than what it was. Like, no, if you know what I mean, it doesn't allow as
Right.
major level commercial, it's more of a mixed use light commercial, like with the town's comp plan.
And if he, wants to do a campground, he'd have to come back for a conditional use permit to this
Yeah.
committee, so you would see
Subject to all
the
of the
potential plan and all
all the
that.
regulations there. The one thing I noticed from the discussion was that DOT is hoarding its water retention, that you can't use their water retention for your own. That's a
Yeah,
problem, so that.
yeah.
So take a step aside for a second to see if anyone else wants to comment on this. Anyone else here? I'm open in the public hearing for public comment. Seeing none, close the public hearing and committee discussion.
Driveway into that, isn't there? There's no driveway into that, is
It shares a driveway with Polk Burnett, that's how you get into that.
Oh, okay. The roundabout bar.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's the piece, is the roundabout bar, yeah, that we're talking about.
One question, Ken, is the roundabout bar gonna continue to operate as a bar, or
Yes.
will be this campground be?
It would all be one. I own the bar. I just don't run it. I lease it to some folks.
But it's gonna remain in operation.
Oh, yes, 100%.
That's it. That's not.
It might potentially go to seasonal, but we'll see what happens. I mean,
And that's okay under the new zoning.
Yes, yes, I don't know if that old loose lines, roundabout, or whatever it is, ever got a permit. It may have been when Meenan was still in zone.
Yeah, it's been there for a long time, and Meenan's only been zoned since '07, I think I
So
wrote.
it's grandfathered in as existing legal non-conforming use, and if you wanted to bring it into conformity, you could just ask for conditional use to make it conforming, but you don't have to. If it was a matter of sale or something to somebody, they wanted to be sure they had a permit, yeah, you could do that. Any further discussion? I'd entertain a motion then for recommendation to the county board.
I'll make motion to, make the zoning change.
Motion by Supervisor Tucker. Let me check for a second. Do you have any conditions on
It
that?
was just to follow all the generic, follow all local, county, state, federal requirements, this activity.
That's just kind of boilerplate, but that's attached, with this by reference, say the condition is attached. For a second,
I'll second it.
seconded by Supervisor Boyer. Any further discussion?
So this will be to approve and then to forward it on to the
County
county
board
board
for
for
zoning change to RRC. We get better at scrolling ahead.
We need to make mention of the quantum chain, but that would be covered under the all state and local federal conditions.
It's noted in there. I mean, if he doesn't fix it by the time they come through for the CUP, then it'll be a condition that we'll write on that, but.
It's something that sometimes when they're pumping stuff, they don't put it back.
Well, they don't have the keys a lot of times, so they cut the lock or the chain, and then nobody puts anything back on, so.
The trivia is back in the days of the metal manhole covers, which went away, just unbolted it, set it aside,
Yeah.
put it back when they didn't have them. But, yeah, it is a potential safety hazard if somebody's strong enough to get the cap off and falls in. Problem. That's what we figure out.
we'll get that taken care of. I didn't know it wasn't on there.
Okay, covered that now too. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Supervisor Tucker,
Yes.
Supervisor Boyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Shalinski,
Yes.
Supervisor Bonder,
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Serena,
Yes.
Supervisor Conrad, yes. Motion is carried. Recommendation to county board for approval. Next, condition of this permit, CUP 2412, Gwinnett County Storage to modify CUP for 2114 in the commercial zone.
Oh, yeah. I'm Mark. I brought a couple of copies, maybe not enough to pass around, but I wanted to make sure that I could tell the story you might get us to share, if that's all right. Jason, I sent this to you.
Yeah, so you.
Actually,
just give Brian.
I kind of need a copy. Can you share?
Yeah.
Is that all right? I'm sorry. Or you can put it up on the screen if you want. Whatever you want to do. I just wanted to first be able to answer all the questions and at the same time, kind of present what we're thinking. So, good? Good. So, appreciate the time. We put our business up about 2 years ago. That old saying of man plans and God laughs is true. There's lots of things that we've learned along the way. We are requesting adjustments to the CUP for just some logical additions. In addition, we think there's been some communication things on fire, septic. We'll talk through that. And then I put together a little map of our property and kind of what we believe it would look like in the future, and then, of course, anything else we can address. So, first, demand for our service has been good. We have one building up and full. It's a 50 by 200 building with about 50 boats in it. Demand for outdoor storage has been less than planned. I think the permit has 75 outdoor boats available to us. I think we have about 25 this past year. And then what was also different in our original proposal was we assumed we'd be bringing most of these boats, but we're not. 75, at least 80% of them are coming in on their own. We've actually only picked up and delivered about 15 or so a year. So it's different than what we originally assumed. Our additional requests that have been coming to us are camper trailers. So we'll talk about that. Snowmobile trailers in the off season, people looking for places to put those. And then we've had more requests for what I'll call private storage for pontoon in the summer, take that out, put my camper trailer in the other way around, winter, put my camper trailer in the summer than we imagined as well. So those are the things that have been different in the year we've been doing this. I think the support in the area has been good. We have had one neighbor on Deer Lake that has been vocal, let's put it that way. So the next page kind of describes the main request. In essence, what we're talking about is just like storing a pontoon, being able to store a camper trailer. And really, the request has come as a result of people that are asked not to leave their camper trailers on their property for, I don't know what the requirement is, Jason, for more than 20 days or whatever it is in the summer. And they need a place to put it when it's not being used on their property. So we've had many of those requests. Again, I know the county's trying to move them off of the properties and they need a place to put them. So that's been number one request that we are making, is the ability to store trailers.
So are they coming,
They call,
come and go, maybe bring it in on Saturday and?
it's exactly what they want to do.
Back on Friday when they want to come back?
It's exactly what they want to do, or
So it's a lot of traffic all summer long.
Well, again, we've had 5 requests. Can't do any of this until you approve it. So we've had 5 requests. So I wouldn't call it a lot of traffic. And then it's more like, I need it when the grandkids come up and they come up once a month. It's not in, out, in, out. It's more like I need it, 1 weekend out of the month, 2 weekends out of the month. That's what people have explained to us. That's what they're explaining. I certainly don't know any facts other than that. So that's the first request. And then a couple of pages here just explaining some of the questions that have come up. So we completed all the land and soil improvements that were originally requested of us. That's the next page. It was some $25,000, $30,000 in adjustments to the soil out there. It was all about drainage questions because we are backing up to the creek on one end, and they wanted to ensure that the drainage actually was appropriate so that things, of course, weren't going to the creek. We're very far away from the creek. But the funny thing was it's all sand there, so we actually had to build support that slowed the drainage, didn't improve the drainage. So that's what the money was invested in. And obviously it's been difficult to grow vegetation out there. It's all sand. So, yep.
That probably had to do with the building construction runoff. that a DNR permit you're talking about?
It was Jason helped me.
Stormwater permit.
Yes, yeah.
That's not our condition.
I think you guys might have had a condition appropriate, runoff controls or something in place.
Mark probably knows. I can address that, yeah. It's for the soil water erosion control plan, and they had to dirty the sand because it's too clean up there. And so they had to put topsoil or whatever sand they had there in the retention ponds to keep it from going too fast. Because the water it soaks in up there, it does not run off. And so the major concern they had is they actually had to slow it down. The other way is to make sure it didn't go too fast, so. Just opposite of what you think, so, certainly opposite of what we expected. Yeah, exactly, opposite of what we expected. So, there's an email in here confirming with that group, that we had completed all that work. Fire inspection, there were questions from the town that whether or not we had these things right. So exit signs are up. There was we have an oil storage container that we had in the building. They asked us to move it outside the building, so we've done all that. So again, that's in here. Planting and screening, there was no specific timing in the cup unless I didn't understand it right, Jason. And because we're still in the process, we haven't put up any screening as of yet, whether organic or man-made. So we're still trying to kind of figure out our path forward here. So we haven't put screening up as of yet. We're a little worried about growing conditions out there, admittedly, but that's what we're still sorting out. So we're not certainly backing off anything that was in the original CUP. We just haven't done it yet along the process. So, so that's that. Septic was a question. We haven't had our septic pumped. That's because it's not hooked up. The tank's dry. I can't pump a dry tank. So, I don't really know if it looks like that actually, but that's the picture I put on here. Have a farm tank? What do I know? City boy. But again, we haven't pumped it because there's nothing in it yet. Yep. Yep.
You or the pumper who services it is supposed to report at least annually on that.
Yep.
So until you hook it up, it just, when you don't get a notice on the holding tank, it makes Jason and other people who deal with.
And I guess I didn't know exactly who to call, so shame on me. But yeah, we just haven't used it. There's nothing in it, so that's why we didn't do anything.
The pumper's supposed to do it, but since you didn't pump it, no notice.
No one knows, yeah.
So the point is, the holding tank not in the service,
Mhm.
it becomes a concern.
Yeah,
Because if somebody is using it, pumping it, that's not a good.
understand.
I'm just giving you the background.
Understand completely, yeah. But, so yeah, we haven't hooked it up. That's why we haven't pumped it, simply. So, and our intention is to get that all hooked up this summer. That's our hope. So first page is kind of the original. My drawing's certainly not as good as yours, Mark, but I took a crack at it. And then, the second page is kind of some thoughts and adjustments on where we are heading. We realize that we just need more open space to move things around. That's represented in the lower left-hand corner, where looks like cars, I guess. But the shop building is in place and building number 1 is in place, upper right, and then everything else is still TBD. Certainly, post-COVID price increases have slowed us down in our building process with construction. So,
Yeah, the little squares would be outside storage essentially, like where the units or campers or boats would be parked.
And really what we just learned is when people come in and out, we just need a place to put things before they get put away. So it's kind of a, yeah.
Holding area.
Yeah. I don't think we'll need that for long-term storage. We think we can hit that back here. But really is just when people bring them in and we just haven't moved them into the building yet. It's kind of like a parking lot, if you will. So, hopefully that tells most of the story. Glad to answer any other questions. Sorry about that, Drew.
But just a question with the landscaping that was done there for water management, was that, I don't know if I got that right, was that a county requirement or was that a state requirement?
Once you disturb more than 1 acre, you have to get a stormwater permit from the DNR.
Sounds like it didn't work out so good. Sounds like you spent a lot of money there without it.
We spent a lot of money that quite honestly never going to be used. Yeah.
All right, just get clarification. Then I had a question regarding the septic tank. I mean, if it's a holding tank, there is an outlet to it. If they were using it, I'm pretty certain once it got full, they would have had it pumped because that would have made a pretty big mess.
We would know.
So I kind of,
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Since it's a holding tank, it's just that there's a reporting, which he had no way to know. And so when you don't get the holding tank reports, you wonder why.
yeah.
There are people that just dump them on the ground.
Oof. Can have that. But,
That's what I mean, so when, it's a red flag to us, when you have a holding tank
yeah,
and it's more than 1 year been reported, because we assume it's being used, so where's all that going? 'Cause we found people that put their own pump in and just dump it to the ditch.
I can't have that, so, very good.
That's just,
As long as it doesn't, determine it hasn't been used, I mean, we should be a little understanding because, hey, it's dry.
all these things out when we
Okay,
go through a process.
gotcha.
If there's something that needs an answer to the question, that's all it is.
So we haven't given anyone a citation for not pumping their tank. Other counties do that. Burnett has not done that.
Why does it have a holding tank there? What, can't it have a conventional system in there, or?
I'm guessing they wanted to save money.
Yeah, we don't expect to have much water use. It's not like it's a public restroom or anything like that, so we just figured that we would do it this way, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You weren't required to.
Yeah.
It isn't even necessarily like expensive significantly, but it also puts a drain field out where you might be running over it with,
Yeah.
in a real low volume, and, you know, to finish that overly long lecture on this, it used to be a system of last resort. Everybody kind of still thinks, but back in 2000, the state made it an option. You can choose to have holding, but you'll only do that when it's so low use that it's not gonna be a burden to have to pump it. Right?
Right.
And so this is the kind of place where it kind of makes sense, but most of the time, that same sand that Mark was discussing is too good, almost. It is where people typically put a drink. Answer your question.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, the one thing that you're delinquent on, I think, like you said, we haven't pursued it because we're still working on it, is the screening.
Yep. Yep.
Gonna have to be moved to the front of the burner.
Mhm.
This would be a much better year to plant than last year, right?
So far. Yeah, and again, because there wasn't a time requirement in the original cup, I guess I just didn't honestly know the expectation. And glad to refine that further. I heard when I arrived, there was someone else talking about having an agreement with the city for a boat storage business. And again, we're glad to figure that out as well. So whatever you'd like us to work on, we're glad to work on.
Any further committee?
Yep.
We'll call you back if there's anything.
Yep.
I'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone here
Do you have one on
online? Let's do the one online first.
David Graham?
David, can you hear us?
Hello? Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes. I just want to preface my comment with, now that the business is there, we don't want it to fail. That doesn't help that space. But we would like some of the original cup requirements actually fulfilled, like screening. Saying you don't know there's a time frame is not acceptable. We've grown thousands of trees up there through droughts and everything else. Screening can be done. And so I don't see why we can't get going on that. I think the traffic needs to be reanalyzed as well if people are going in and out more periodically than seasonally. So I guess my concern is we had these concerns 2 years ago. And of course, somebody, a business underestimates the market for boats and now wants to expand it, which is exactly a concern we had before. And so now we're dealing with that. So we want the requirements of any change to the cup to be commensurate with need for screening, traffic issues, and what other ecological requirements are in place. Because as much as the site now is pretty darn good for what it's doing, it's not going to be any better with the increased in diversity of storage. That's all I have.
Any public hearing? Come forward, ma'am, and.
Good morning, or not afternoon yet, but my name is Carla Graham, and I'm a mile north on Deer Lake Road from the storage unit. And there's a couple things that I wanted to address today. I think one is already been mentioned, and that's the screening for a visual as you come whatever direction from that area. And I know that the boats are being temporarily stored as they're shrink wrapped and so forth. But if you think of tourism, you see people coming across on Highway 77 and they're going by and they're seeing this, it doesn't add to the environment for visitors. In regards to the current cup, and now he wants, Mark wants to go ahead and revise the original cup, I'll call it. During the last couple of years, there's been some outside storage that wasn't approved, such as some trailers on the property, camper topper that goes onto a pickup truck. There's been some tires sitting outside. And I notice these because I go by there all the time, in and out. So it's open, it's not fenced, so I can see the activity and the things that are being out on the property. On the original cup, Mark Hubler provided a presentation about what his business would be. He said, we intend to build this and be this, we are not this. We have, you know, a seasonal approach. We're good neighbors, we're good environmental stewards, so I want him to hold his promise to that. And what I mean is some of the things that he mentioned in this presentation was traffic, which David Graham, not a relative of mine, had mentioned there's increased traffic now, and if you're going to have more renters coming in for storage, it's going to increase that traffic. And originally it was only supposed to be for 2 times a year as boats were being delivered and picked up, spring and fall. The other thing is that in Mark's presentation, he said he didn't want to allow renters to create a storage junkyard. For me, if you're using outdoor storage for campers, RVs, snowmobiles, ATVs, that to me looks like a junkyard. And I don't want that to happen in this area. So the one other thing that I have is with renters, is there a concern about fluids entering or contaminants entering into the ground? And I say this because on the original cup, Chairman Bickerman had asked some of these concerns. He had asked Mark about the traffic in and out of the property, but he also talked about, you know, how he was going to handle all the fluids, how he was going to dispose of them. And Mark said that they were going to be responsible for making changes or changing fluids and so forth, and they would take care of the appropriate disposal. Anyway, wanted to bring that up. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Any further public comments?
All right. Steve Austin, on board chairman of Webb Lake, and we unanimously voted to support his request for the CUP. And our thinking is, one, it's an appropriate use, and two, when we talk about the trailers and all those things being there, we'd rather have them there than in everybody's yards. We think it looks better. And it's pretty easy access from Highway 77, as you know. Randy lives by there, he knows, so we think it's a very appropriate use. Thank you.
Mark Krause from Wagner Surveying. As we talked about the stormwater runoff and the site itself, for those of you that weren't on here when the first one was done, it was an old it's a borrow pit for Highway 77 construction project. And so the site was basically a barren sand pit. And then I know they had at one time proposed to have a church there. So it was a pretty bare site. And so by trying to get things to grow there, it takes some time. And when they did put the erosion control plan and so forth in place, one of the biggest concerns was, can we make some of these ponds where you might be able to get some vegetation to grow there? And so it has taken time to get that going, because the only way to get things to grow there is probably to water. And they don't necessarily have a well or whatever to do that. So it will be tricky to get trees to grow on that site because it is very sandy. And so they're trying to use the rain gardens or the retention areas maybe as potential for some of this growth. And so it will take time. And the other thing was, it is right on 77, which is the busiest road in the thing. It's right at the intersection there. So as far as ingress, egress, and getting people to the site, this is the busy area of the township, and so it seems like a logical place to have this, so, thank you.
Any further public comments? No further public comments, I'll close the public hearing and open for committee discussion.
Was there any thought about having a passing lane, but an access lane off the highway, so if they're gonna make the turn, you don't have to stop right on the highway?
Not aware of any, no. A portion of Highway 77 was reconstructed not all that long ago. And changed some of the aspect of the highway there. And they, not like as Mark said, that was a knob, just helped it off. Changed the topography quite a bit. And
What would they have to go through to get a right turn access, so to speak?
About that, they have to warn enough traffic to do that.
DOT would have to do it, essentially would do a traffic study to determine if a turn lane was required.
DOT didn't raise those issues.
Yeah, DOT, I sent everything to DOT, and they did not send any correspondence.
And initially, they had no issue with
Yeah.
person.
I mean, you see they sent comments on some of the other ones. They must not, I'm assuming they have no concerns if they did not comment on this one.
When he doesn't have a traffic count like 70.
Yeah.
They don't use as good,
Is that also certainly busier than many of the towns out there on there.
Could I just add a comment, because I talked to the DOT 3 years ago when this was happening, and they basically said because there's a township road for the traffic to, and that's where the access is, they weren't planning to do anything on Highway 77, so wanted to share that.
We'll be speculating as well.
I have a question about the original CUP. You know, we see, looks like things from their original presentation maybe 3 years ago, where they said they will be adding trees along 77, and they said the whole area would be fenced. I just didn't know if screening issues were addressed in the CUP, the original CUP.
Required screening.
Well, whatever they submit as part of their plan is part of the CUP.
Okay,
Yeah.
so basically,
See, I don't think on the first one, if I recall correctly, it wasn't specific though.
I think there was, in the first one, there was some discussion of how to do it multiple ways. I think the committee accepted that.
Because there was supposed to be a vegetation screening plan submitted to me, which I don't necessarily agree with, because it shouldn't be my decision to say yes or no, the screening satisfies the committee's determination. But that's what the prior CUP said.
so, did you receive one?
No.
In this case, listen to the discussion of factoring in that there was a pretty persistent drought last year. That would have been difficult. Plant trees without water in a long time. So do you want to consider, I'll have to back up. Might you want to consider fencing for screening instead of vegetation?
Then you don't have to water it.
Right, look, if it's right here, they won't have runoff in there.
Well, last year, had you planted trees, in all likelihood, there'd have been a lot of mortality. Yeah, you can keep after it, it's true, that it takes a while. You can come forward.
Yep, sure.
And then, the discussion needs to involve you, right? So what we're just kicking around here is, would you prefer both the fencing for screening, privacy fencing type thing, instead of trees, so as to not have to deal with trees?
Hey, look, admittedly, I don't know. I mean, to put a fence around that whole property could be $70,000. So, and putting up a chain link fence is probably not beneficial to the community. Yeah.
The reason I even raise it is that transplanting trees are going to be necessary to satisfy the original CUP. If you're prepared to take the well to water,
Yep.
So we're starting to talk.
We- So, no, the well's in, it's just not hooked up. Holding tank's in, well's in, it's just not hooked up, which is why the holding tank's dry. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's a non-issue, and I guess if you know, on the spot, ask me to think about this, I think we'd probably like to attempt organic screening, trees.
Maybe we would probably specify, because Jason said he was left with an item to sign. The traditional way to make a fairly opaque screen that goes pretty fast is orange shoulder belt idea. You have a row of red flames, and behind that a row of balls. One of them is a triangle, the other is an inverted triangle, and they're not lined up behind each other, they're gaps, staggered gap. So like a double or triple row of them right along the right of way, 77 and along the right of way of the town road, on bracketing the driveway. You know, not very many years, if not a lot. Start out with 5 or 6 foot high trees like that, and into the transplant.
Mm-hmm.
We did a fairly opaque screen pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So if we would set a condition like that, give you a, important that if you're gonna start storing stuff in that spot, that's on the way.
And are you asking that I build a screen that covers all the buildings?
No, we're talking,
Well, anything that would be
talking about,
in the open?
In front, on along Highway 70 and around the corner.
Yeah, so in the back end where on that one diagram, that's all covered. So you can't see anything. I don't know who's visited and who hasn't, but that's all covered in the back. So it'd be the one front area where I kind of show that parking, if you will. That's the area that you're most concerned with.
you've got right along the right of way, any of that around that perimeter.
Make sure I know what you're looking at. Oh, there you go.
Basically, kind of where your pond, retention pond ends, kind of where there's some existing veggie trees.
This is more than likely gonna be a building, right? And this is where there would be, call it, parking.
Yeah,
So it's really this area here that you're most concerned about.
most concerned in that area up and around. But it's a sight line, you know, it's pretty obvious when you come by, looking into a lot of desert there right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the area that I think was the original idea. It's to screen.
Yeah, and admittedly, again, it was vague in the original cup, so, yeah.
Well, now, it's a little bit like the first one we did. Now we know kind of what it's gonna look like.
Yep. Yep.
We know where the highway sight lines are.
Yeah.
Sight lines from the like road area is.
Yeah, so if we're gonna call trees organic screening, then yes, I agree, that would be the right next step for us, before I jump to a fence, because I'd love trees to grow, I just wanna make sure they do.
Possibly will.
Yeah.
Guys of the landscaper types have tree states and whatnot. They
Yep.
move pretty good.
Yeah,
Most important that they get water. That's key to keep them alive. And so we would make that a condition. We would make that if a tree dies, you have to replace it.
Mm-hmm.
That you can try once and.
Mm-hmm. Yep, understand,
Keep active and keeping that.
understand.
And that would, help the other problem that they were saying. You got, both trailers and docks and things sitting outside. If they were screened and not being able to be seen, it'd be a lot better
Wouldn't see it.
than just having them sitting outside where come into our beautiful spot for us.
Yeah, and I appreciate the comments from the Grahams, not related. The stuff that is there is not there permanently, right? It comes in, gets taken care of, gets moved into the building or moved to the back. And I would argue true of the tires and things like that as well. I mean, we're not perfect, but it's not laying around. There's no stuff laying around. So, and admittedly, the camper that you mentioned, the one on the back of a pickup truck type camper, quite honestly, that was where I learned that wasn't in my cup, because I kind of assumed that it was no different, like that picture shows. I assumed that it was, and that was my mistake. That's what kind of got me here today.
I have a question, to some of the things that were initially, promised, you know, that, adding trees along 77, and you kind of explained that already. And so the whole area will be fenced with a, privacy fence. privacy, with the neighbors to the north, have those things in.
So I don't remember there being a fence commitment. Oh, yeah, but that's not in the cup. This is just what I was trying to explain, right?
What do we say?
I thought you said this is included in the cup if it's part of the,
Yeah, usually information you present is considered part of the record.
No, so we haven't put that fence up on the north end, and again, apologize for my understanding, if you will. The north end is all trees, so I don't know, and again, I'm glad to go back and look at this again with anyone that wants to look at it. And if there has to be a fence on the north end, I would think it would be on the western end, because that's where if there is a lack of trees, it would be right there. But if you go back, I mean, most of the way back, there's trees and vegetation going all the way back. So again, that if I misstated something, then.
I'm more concerned about, not honoring what you said, and I would, if I were to consider anything, it would be that the previous promises be completed before anything else can commence, would be my thought.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I was thinking about, and I'm trying to remember, we always a bad idea. Well, we always have had concerns about security toward storage facilities.
Yep.
Our side is we're vulnerable, it's on the side of the highway.
But-
That may have been that fencing was about in the north.
Yeah, it's been one of those other things that we've been learning our way through, and there's I don't know what you call it, marked drainage ditch that goes all the way around the property, is that what you call that? And, our feeling originally was we were gonna need a security fence. We don't feel that anymore. There's no way anyone could go through that ditch by pulling a pontoon trailer out. It would be physically impossible. But we are intending still to put a fence on the gate, call it the entrance to. And that is, yeah, and that is kind of where you're talking about in that corner. Yeah,
I think up the front, then maybe then hit it back away.
back to this corner that you're talking about. Yeah, because again, that corner is the one where there is less vegetation. As you move your way back, I don't know how far, 50 yards, then the vegetation is certainly grown up. And in the summer, I can't see the neighbor in the summer.
It isn't so much just site cover. Screening, vegetative screening is also cover
Mm-hmm.
areas actually. Right?
Yeah.
Keep in mind that it wasn't all entirely about privacy, but somewhat about.
Yeah, certainly I don't want security issues. That's
No.
not my intention.
We looked at that, why is it any of our business? Well, a little bit of vulnerability for limited law enforcement resources and whatnot to keep a handle on this.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes maybe now modern technology provides camera surveillance and real-time viewing of what's going on with someone so they know if there's something going on. And rather than the fence to keep them out, it's just enough awareness of something going on that shouldn't be there, right?
Yep.
There's multiple ways to do that.
Yep.
But I think those are considerations that we raise because you're the ones that have to deal with it if there's a violation.
Yep, for sure. Yep. And again, I guess, Karen, just to go back and address your point again, we have learned a lot, right? And there's a lot we didn't know when we started, and we've learned a lot since that time.
I do understand that and I appreciate it. But when there are specific, requirements and all these things that were attached to it from the original meeting, it's like those things weren't followed through on. And, that's just a concern of how we would, trust that going forward.
And again, I accept all that. The only thing I will go back to is I don't know there was a time commitment for any of these things. So I'm not going to fully accept followed through on yet because I don't think any of those things were time bound. Because again, I'm learning my way through this process, right? And I don't think that was in there that way.
I would just comment that I hope the committee has learned from this that we need to be specific. There was no specificity in there, so I see both sides. So I would just suggest going forward, we be very specific about conditions.
Are there generally specifics as far as, submitting a plan, the part submitting a plan to Jason? Or was that open-ended as well? Or just before they do any work, or? I'm just wondering if there's any implied requirements.
I didn't see anything in the history for this.
I do remember the one specific thing from the meeting itself. I can't remember who, Jason, but someone said, Jason, so I want you to work with Mark. That was on the soil stuff, right? And make sure that that all happens the right way. That was all the email traffic that confirmed that it did. And that was the one commitment that I remember in the meeting that you were asked to do, and that was completed.
Well enough. We could go look. I don't know that it's critical, but here's all of this contained.
Yep.
Be clear that there was an intention to provide screening on 77.
Yes.
Tree lines needed to.
Yep.
Supervisor Anderson about, before you do those other things, that needs to be done to satisfy that condition, because that's what that condition is to address.
Yep.
Right? We can work on the need to, well, other than that, I think I'm not all that concerned about change we haven't discussed yet. Like on this, I'd like us to cover the change of actual storage use a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, it's not like you're gonna be storing people's stuff. It's still gonna be limited to recreational equipment.
That's the intent, yep. Yeah, I think my exact quote that Carla seemed to remember was, I don't want people's mattresses and old ovens. That's not what I'm interested in. So no, we won't be doing that.
What would be finding it?
Some people want private storage for their recreational stuff, and the intention is probably when I stick my pontoon in there, I can, if it's my private space, I can put an inner tube alongside of it, you know? That's the way I'm hearing people.
I'm thinking they're gonna take their pontoon out and store their snowmobile.
Yep.
Bring the winter store their UTV,
They want extra space all season long.
stuff like that, but not just random stuff.
Right.
Need to come up with something recreational,
Better than random stuff.
yeah, recreational
Right.
equipment, such as UTV, snowmobiles. Just to play devil's advocate, I guess, if it's private storage, then it's private storage. If I wanna put a mattress in there, I'm renting it from you, and I'll put my convertible in there, and I'll put a mattress on top of it.
All right.
I don't think we should limit it at all.
Can I
As long as the
patrol
door's closed, you know, it's up to you, but as long as the door's closed, nobody's gonna see it. So
Yeah. Yeah, so if it
Don't
can,
put stuff in there, or don't put things in there that are impossible to regulate. Like,
Right.
am I gonna go there, over there, and we're gonna open every door and look for count mattresses?
Right.
But some of it's outdoor storage, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we can limit.
well, no, I mean, the only things that would be outdoor are things like that trailer. I mean, we're not gonna have stacks of stuff outdoor. That's
Fine,
not,
but that's probably what does need more of the definition would be the outside storage. in addition to the-
Yeah, we would store outside, maybe some RVs, boats, snowmobiles, pontoons.
You gonna be doing any shrink wrap then?
we do shrink wrap. Yeah. We do shrink wrap.
Are you seasonal rental or yearly?
Me personally?
The building.
Oh, I mean, it's still seasonal business. Meaning the majority of it happens, like I guess I said,
How do you rent them?
oh, yeah, seasonal. They pay for come in the fall, leave in the spring. Now, if someone buys a permanent space, then that would be annual. Yes, yeah, we don't have any of those right now, but yes, if they did that. it
So
would-
when they move their boat out in the spring, if they, 2 weeks later, they come back and wanna put their snowmobile in there, but somebody's already got it, they're out of luck.
well, no, again, if it's their space, it's their space, so they could take their boat out and
Also,
put
it's not seasonal, it's all year long.
again, so if we.
The new ones will.
I don't have those yet. I don't have any of those yet. What I have today is seasonal. One big building, we put them in, we take them out. What is a part of this discussion is individual recreational units that would allow people to take one out, put something else in, like snowmobiles. I think, like you said a minute ago,
It's self-storage. It's the new buildings would be self-storage.
at least one, we don't think all of them, but we think at least one of them would be, yeah. So we understand the demand.
So that'll be a yearly thing instead of season,
Yes,
that's what I was asking.
yeah. Sorry if I didn't understand.
What we're talking about then is the current building is one big building, you're not converting that.
No.
Next building could be a self-storage type building.
Yeah, we think it might end up being like half and half, but yes, like one side of it would be these units and the other side would be open storage again, like we have today.
And there's another building potentially in the future.
Yeah, I mean, if demand continues, yeah.
Like visually today, as we said, we allowed the amendment to the CUP for the second building to be self-storage, undetermined amount, yearly, half, whatever.
Mhm.
And then if you, the next time you want to build another building, then we'll amend the condition of this permit again to address what that's going to be.
Mhm.
Well,
Yes, meaning kind of see how it goes, if you will.
kind of,
I'm fine with that.
When this gentleman is finished, I don't know if it's appropriate if I could ask the town chairman a question.
Sure.
You know, zoning, obviously, is the county's duty there in the township. They took on county zoning. And, you know, a town chairman obviously has a heartbeat on the community that he lives in. And not knowing Mr. Austin, I mean, what would be the town's feeling on requiring screening, whether it be a fence at a large expense or trees?
We'd like to see the natural green, we would.
All right, so I'm just trying to gauge what my thoughts are on deciding this, because I also hear the concerns of the residents where they don't like the looks of things. And while I agree with that, I see things I don't like to look at either, but at what point do we get to where someone don't like my flag flying out in front of the house, that's a problem? That does happen as well today in society. I don't like that approach either. And if we're gonna talk about shrink wrap, well, are we gonna say, well, are you gonna shrink wrap? The next step will be, well, it's gonna be blue, there's gonna be white, there's gonna be camouflage. At what point do a person's property rights really matter? So I mean, I wanna lean more on what the township's views are, because they are closest to the people. Government should be really closest to the people, it really shouldn't be in Madison or what have you. So I mean, for me, I like the idea of natural screening simply because the town chairman, who I've never met, favors that. So I mean, if, you know, it's nice when you have a conditional use permit that you honor what your obligations are. And if that screening could be natural, that would be great to see. But we gotta really remember property rights. They're very important. They're the foundation of what we call the American dream. So that's what I have.
any further committee discussion? I think we've closed the public hearing, we opened it a little bit to clarify things. Like, we're ready to entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. It's gonna be confusing.
I'm ready. Tanya's ready.
With the following conditions. That a, screening, vegetation, or fencing plan be submitted by August 1st of 2024 to the Land Use and Information Committee via Jason. And that said plan be completed by December of 2025. The septic system be serviced and reported to the county. We've talked about that, but it still needs to be reported. Follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity. And I believe you have come up to date on your fire inspection, so I don't think that's necessary.
Regarding the screening, was that some minimum standard?
I just kind of thought that would be a back and forth once they submitted the plan. If you've got recommendations for what it should be, we can add that, but I don't know enough about vegetation to throw any recommendations in that.
Could I make a comment on the motion before we go for a second? I guess I don't want to put Jason in that position. He's a busy guy too, and if the township, I would like to see that submitted plan go to the township first, and then if the township's okay with it, then go to Jason, because then we know we have the approval from.
Oh, it's only going to Jason because he filters it and gives it to us. It's coming to us,
Sounds
not,
like I was gonna, receive it and then pass it
Right.
along to you guys.
right, that's what I was.
What about the township? I mean, I'd like to see us really have the blessing of the township with what the
We're
plan
in
is.
charge of the conditional use.
I know, but
Well, he can always work with the township ahead of time.
It would be helpful if, when you submitted it, it said approved by.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at, yes.
Well, let's loop the town of Woodbury in the loop.
Okay.
And let's say that what we're talking about though is enough vegetation if we go to that route to grow to be opaque. That would mean at least 2 rows, possibly 3, you know, but kind of like a little Christmas tree plantation. It's almost like staggering along 77. And then you maintain that line. So, those 2 little, you amend it to include those 2 caveats.
Sure.
And that allows you to make a design to bring back to us next month.
And the date that you mentioned, December 25, so I have 2 summers, if you will, to kind of get that.
Exactly.
I appreciate that, yeah, because it's hard to get it done in one summer.
Within that parameter. And then you're gonna bring it back to us soon so that as a condition that we've reviewed it and approved it. You're making a motion to approve with that condition.
Right.
We have a second.
That's second.
Second by Supervisor Henderson.
And then I have just some questions on that. You know, the plan is gonna be submitted, but what's the guarantee that all the trees just didn't grow? I mean, if the trees don't grow, is there another type of screening that's gonna be required? I'm just looking at the promises made the first time around, and this wasn't anything I don't think we put on. I think this is what, you know, the applicant had put
I
forward.
think by saying that it must be maintained.
But are you starting with things this big that,
Oh,
I
see what
mean,
you're saying.
like,
But we'll see all that in the plan.
I think the plan should state, you know, what size trees you're gonna start with. And then we kind of would have an idea of,
Without making this the plan yet, but think in
Right.
terms of like 5 feet or higher. Like, to start with. And I'm based that on own personal experience of how big I could transplant and get away with it when I was younger and healthy. But that's my point. It needs to be meaningful, not just, you know, just, of course. Work within those parameters discussed, so that the plan, the screening plan is within the discussion of today, but the review of it by a month or so. To verify that it meets what we. Okay? And then again, did you include that the expansion of the building is 1 building?
I did not.
Could you
Purposely. I think if we're gonna approve it, let's approve it and let them go. We know what they wanna do, that's just me.
Not demanding, I just like clarifying. So your proposal is maximum of 2 additional buildings at this point?
That's what's in there, yeah. Yep.
Okay with that. Looking clarification. Any further discussion?
I'd like to hear a read back of what the actual motion is.
that's why we have recordings, so we can clean them up afterwards.
You want me to state it again?
Or you can try, I think I know.
Go ahead. I'll correct you if you're wrong.
Let's see how it's in.
I got shorthand notes here. Screening plan submitted by 8/1/24 to me, which would then be reviewed by the committee. We want the township of Webb Lake to basically have looked at and approved the plan. That screening plan would be then completed by December 2025.
Correct.
We discussed standards or guidance. for that.
Yep, so he has some guidance, but there's
But we haven't
nothing,
defined that.
Yep.
That's what we're kind of.
Gonna come back to you for approval.
And then the other one was the septic system be serviced and reported, follow a local county state and come up to date. You want, I guess, come up to date on the fire inspections.
We should see, I believe they have, but.
Usually I like to just leave it in there, that way
Yep, makes
I
sense.
know it's there.
Can I ask one more question
Sure.
of the resident here? Does that help ease your concerns knowing there'd be trees there? Yeah.
Yes, it would, I think visually, it would be
All right, thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion in a second, so we're voting for the
Can
motion.
I ask one question? How will I, once this, plan plan is submitted, this vegetation plan, whatever you wanna call it, how do I find out that you guys like it?
We're gonna put it on the agenda as a,
So for another hearing?
no,
It won't be another public hearing, it would just be an agenda item where it would literally
You'll
just
send me
say,
notifications then, like it, don't like it?
you can bring it and be here when we talk about it.
usually Mark's here, I'm sure maybe he'll draw something up for you or something, I don't know.
Your drawings are better than mine.
He had a good start, he just needs to improve his
Yeah.
graphics.
I need some coaching, yeah.
Oh, okay, you're, ready for a roll call vote, you understand the motion, you understand what the guidance is? That
Yes.
is what we expect to see. We haven't defined that as fiber. Till next time. Okay, roll call vote. Supervisor Tucker,
Yes.
Supervisor Moyer,
Yes.
Supervisor Szymanski,
Yes.
Supervisor Blomberg,
Yes.
Supervisor Chuck Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Karen Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Conrad, yes. So, to, go forth and plan. Generally, that's, we'll review that.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we now have, plant services report.
Yeah, so the reports are in there for this period here. I did some corner work, some corners along the St. Croix River. That's why you'll see 7 new corners submitted. Staff comments are in there, budget report is in there, nothing out of line. Revenue is up higher than we were last year at this time. Expenses are generally all in line where they need to be for this time of year. Permit numbers are in there, 727 already this year. You can see the breakdown of which ones, at what category.
Number for this week.
Yes, it is. This no winter, helps with that. So that's all I have for staff reports, or for reports for the department. Anybody has any questions? Then, got to get on Zoom to do that presentation, right? Let's see here. Right, thing open. See if it's my email.
He's figuring that out.
This one. Which one? Oh, right there. No. Meeting. Thinking. Yep, I'm gonna open it here in a second. This over here, that.
Looks good so far.
I know, right? You like it? Almost got it open here. Oops, I don't want.
Good. What goes on in
It's amazing how busy they get and things they're in charge of and do.
Okay.
Amazing.
share down?
This one. There. Here we go.
Where's your screen?
Hmm? Oh,
So much bigger, thank you.
all right, so, we're gonna do a little presentation here about the Land Service Department. Here's a basically directory or org chart, basically of who's in the department. We basically have 3 divisions within Land Services. We have Conservation, Property Information, and Zoning Division. I'm only gonna cover Property Information and Zoning because those are the 2 that report to this committee. The Conservation Division reports to Natural Services Committee. So zoning, initially, we were, it was Land Information Department and Zoning Department were separate. 2014, we were combined to be the Land Services Department, and in 2018, Land and Water was merged with us to be the Land Services Department. So that's how we came about the 3 divisions. Well, I already kind of said that. The different committees, which division reports to which committee. What do we do? Well, I don't feel like reading bullet points to all of you guys, but, because I'll email this out to everyone after the meeting, because there's links in here to ordinances and all those different things, but a lot of it is the first sentence up there, protect the health, safety, convenience, general welfare. So that's pretty much the main mission of why we exist. Yeah, lots of different things we got, that we work on. So basically, who we have for staff. So Property Information Division is just Tia. It used to be when we had a field guy for county survey work, but there used to be a position for that. Now we contract with Barron County to do the field work for our PLSS maintenance and remodel. So there's Tia. So if you see her wandering through the halls, that's who she is. She's been here since 2012. She has a bachelor's degree in GIS from Northern Michigan. These are basically her 5 pretty much main functions that she works on: GIS, all the GIS for the county, mapping. She is the lead on the Beacon website, does all the addressing, and then any large-scale mapping printing that we have to have done. What is GIS? Geographic Information System. Basically, this is the kind of a little sketch, I guess, that shows kind of what GIS is doing. You're literally layering data on top of other data layers. So you're basically stacking all types of different things to try to understand what's going on in the real world, essentially. So we have all these different data layers. You know, we have roads, parcels, elevation, we have zoning, land use layers, address points, all these different things that we layer on top of each other, aerial photography, that we're trying to see patterns or, you know, just managing the information that we have in the county. Main things with the GIS mapping is parcel mapping. That's the one that gets used the most by everyone. That shows the parcel ownership and the boundary information, site addresses, building, driveway locations. That's a big thing. Driver for that is 911 servicing. So we have all these other data layers: roads, driveways, zoning, boundaries, districts, supervisor districts. We do help the census mapping. We work on all that. So anything that's tied to any sort of mapping, pretty much done in there. Yeah, Sheriff's Department relies on a lot of the stuff that we deal with, a lot of their emergency services. Here's an example of what parcel mapping typically looks like. Pretty yellow lines on, people like to overlay it on the aerial photo. Again, this is parcel mapping. This is not a survey map. Don't sit here and try to build a fence along where you think this line is shown on here. The parcel mapping that, you know, monuments control, so there could be some error. We're only mapping this stuff from within the section, the 1 square mile boundary. So there, you know, monuments control, the monument might be 4 feet different than where our yellow line shows it on the map, because we're not going out and finding 30,000 property corners to get this mapping that accurate. Aerial photography has some error in it as well. That aerial imagery is flown from a plane going 200 miles an hour, 12,000 feet above the ground. So it's fast, and they're getting this clarity of images, but there is then they have to take that image and try to drape it onto a round surface. So there's a little bit of distortion and different things in there, but, it's pretty close. When we say accurately mapped parcels, we're about 2/3 of the way mapped through the county. That stuff is pretty good. I mean, you'll see here, the houses are fitting within the yellow blocks. So we kind of assume, okay, things look like they're right. People are kind of owning what we think they have. There are other counties that maybe do what they call cartoon mapping. If you go look at some of their counties, and they'll have the yellow lines literally going through every house in spots, just because they don't put the time and effort in to try to do it as accurate as we do. So, but that's why it goes slower.
Are there any neighboring counties that have?
Well, I don't know if I want to name any, but yeah, there's neighboring counties. There are
We can look them up on GIS.
counties in our area
You don't need to name names, but I'm just.
that do some of that stuff.
Sure.
I'm sure, well, Mark Krause probably knows, he probably gets a lot of phone calls when our mapping shows stuff that doesn't look right, anyhow, so.
If it shows up, the people know about it, but
Yeah.
our neighbors to the north are the worst one.
So yeah, we're trying to work on that. Another thing I guess I'd like to say too, we're hearing a lot more people now that are trying to use coordinates off of like our GIS site and then trying to put that in their cell phone and try to map their property lines. I tell people, my typical spiel is, I go, well, the surveyors have GPS units that cost $30,000 to measure within 1/8 of an inch, essentially. Forestry has about a $5,000 GPS unit that measures within a meter or two. Your cell phone probably has a 25-cent GPS chip in it, that, it'll get you to your deer stand, because you can then, visually see, oh, there's my deer stand or something like that, but don't be trying to build a fence off what your phone or Onyx is telling you.
Find your way back to your car as long as the battery doesn't go dead.
Yes, so, but it is amazing, we're getting a lot of people that are, and one guy told me he pounded a pipe in where his phone told him his property corner was, and I'm like, okay, you do what you do, but, so this is the Beacon GIS website. We have about 75 different layers on there. We try to put everything that we have on our GIS website. Some counties don't do that. Some counties only put certain layers on there. I guess, not that I don't want to talk to people, but I guess the more information we have on here, if you can do it yourself, and if you want to look at things at midnight and you don't have to rely on us being here 8:30 to 4:30, more power to you. So the Beacon site is newer this year. It's still working out some bugs. So if certain things maybe don't work quite right for you, please be patient. We do have a long list of tickets, support tickets into the vendor. A lot of them are to developments where they disappear forever, it seems.
We're the guinea pigs for the latest and greatest version of this.
Yeah, so how this all happened is, we used to, a bunch of counties in Wisconsin were on the ADC application, the WebGuide Extreme, and there was 30 or so of us counties, I think, on that platform. That company, ADC, is kind of moving a different direction, so I think that little portion of their business was either not profitable or not important to maintain or keep going, so they basically sold their rights to this Beacon company. Beacon then is using all of us Wisconsin counties, which we did not know at first, as the guinea pigs to test their new application. Because we all tested out Beacon, a lot of Minnesota counties have Beacon, so that's why a lot of us went with it. We thought, okay, we have a lot of customers from across the river that own property over here. We have the same platform, it should work the same. People will know how to use it in one area, they won't have as much learning curve on ours. Well, lo and behold, yeah, they didn't tell us that they were rolling out a whole new application, redesigned the whole thing in the background, and Wisconsin was gonna be the test counties. So here we are, we have a lot of things that we're still trying to work out. Like if you label dimensions on the map and then try to print it, the text takes up the whole map, you can't even see it. Different data isn't being pulled in the right fields out of the background. Yeah, so we're working through it. We essentially had two choices, go with Beacon or develop our own in-house system. We don't have the staff, time, resources, and we don't wanna spend a lot of money, because it's very expensive to try to develop your own GIS system, to push out to people. That's why a lot of counties go with these essentially canned programs. Yeah, so we basically went with Beacon. I think, from what I heard, I was the last holdout, to roll over. I kept telling them, we're not ready to go live, get these bugs worked out, not ready, keep working. Then right around Christmas, they basically told me, they're like, we're turning your site off, your ADC site at the end of the year, so you decide, do you wanna have a site out there or not? So I guess here we are, with the site that still has some bugs that we gotta work out.
What's the price of that?
It's about $3,000 or $4,000 a year for maintenance on that. It's not too bad.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That is a resource that's used by so many people.
Yeah, we're gonna get, when we had the ADC site, we used to have website statistics that were in the report. We typically had about 250 users per day were on that GIS website.
Wow.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't, FEMA is gonna remap us?
Yep, we're gonna get new floodplain maps. They're, supposed to roughly, they're hopefully gonna start the process later on this fall for updating ours, and I think it's a 1 to 2 year process to update our floodplain maps, but they'd be,
The floodplain maps that actually are meaningful.
yeah, right now the floodplain maps are horribly inaccurate.
Contour with a 10-foot positional accuracy, so people show me the end warrant.
Yep.
Get all done, it would be good.
Yeah, I think anecdotally, when Barron County had their floodplain maps done, they said like 85 to 90% of the structures were removed from the floodplain when they had their maps updated.
I'm reminded, and you remember this too, of North Sands Lake getting new maps by FEMA, but on the same old database. Where hardly anybody had been into, a whole lot of people went. And then the Lake Association, because it's fairly deep pocketed, was, decided it would initiate zoning, having a couple of permits to deny. Make it eligible for DNR to run the program. Funded, along with Green and Mallard Lake, study. I changed it to 6 inches above the ordinary high water mark. And nobody was in. Hey, Clark?
Yeah. I guess one of the comments I make is there's a lot of lakes have been done out there. Are they gonna get adopted in, or is the county gonna be able to spend a little money to change them from A zones to AE? And if you don't know what that means, the A zone is the generic one on there. That means that you're in the flood zone. AE means there's an established elevation on the lake. And like Craig said, we did a lot of studies for individual lakes that have got those adopted, but they're not formally adopted on FEMA. So if that can get married together, it would greatly help the public that has properties on those lakes too, so.
Well, Flanagan tried to get all those included in 2008.
And it's one of those things we need to work with the politicians or,
It didn't happen,
or DNR, because they're really, they have the personnel, but I won't say they don't tend to want to do much work. Because it'd be easy to turn some of these into be AE zones, which would get everybody on board, so.
No, the department does a great job on these maps, so.
Yeah, it gets used a lot, that's for sure. Addressing, another thing that TIA works on, we determine addresses for new construction. There's about 17,500 addresses in the county. We order signs, coordinate with the local munis on proper installation location. We can print up to 36-inch wide maps. We do some printing usually for like highway or forest green parks once in a while. We can scan up to 36-inch wide too. Yeah, so voting maps, we do those, each change usually in the districts and that stuff. Zoning staff, we have 2, Kelly Thompson, Grant Lindell in our office. Picture Kelly, she's been here since 2022. She has a bachelor's degree in conservation from UW River Falls. She works on land use permits, POUTS permits, violations. She does have her soil tester and POUTS inspector credentials. Got that. Grant, he started here this spring, 2024. He's got a bachelor's degree in health and wellness from UW Stout. He's basically working with Callie right now, trying to learn as much as he possibly can. He is scheduled to take his first test, I believe later on this month. It takes a couple months to get into the system, once you get started to get on the schedule for taking some tests at, Department of Safety and Professional Services. Land use permits is a lot of things that we work on. Shoreland areas is mandatory for zoning. That's, shoreland is defined within 1,000 feet of a lake or pond, within 300 feet of a river, stream, or creek, or the landward side of the floodplain if greater than 300. There's 17 townships that have general zoning. They've adopted that, some adopted in March of 1971, and then the last one is in 2008. I can't remember if I think that was Lincoln, maybe, the last one. Or Daniels, one of those two. Yeah, it might have been Daniels. There's 4 unzoned townships, Blaine, La Follette, Sand Lake, Wood River. What does that mean when you're unzoned? Well, shoreland zoning still applies in an unzoned area. So if you're on a lake in Sand Lake, within 1,000 feet of the lake, you're still under zoning. So that's mandatory. But if you're more than out of the shoreland area, then, you know, I like to tell people it's kind of the Wild West of land development. Essentially, you can do almost anything you want. You still do need to get sewer permits, though, even if you're in the unzoned area. But you don't need a land use permit. You still do need a building permit, AKA a UDC permit from the town inspector if you're building a habitable structure, like a bunkhouse or a dwelling. But yeah, you don't need permits for garages, any sorts of things like that. So what are we looking at when we do land use permits? Verifying the setbacks, roads, wetlands, water, property lines. We have to look at the height, floodplain issue, pout sizing, impervious area. Do you have the right access? Does the use fit with the zoning district? So, you know, are they trying to put a dollar store on a residentially zoned parcel or something like that? And then other compliance issues that we might find. We go out on every land use permit, so we do look at everything. That's where a lot of times we find the sewer tank doesn't have a lock and chain on it, you know, or whatever other things we're essentially looking at when we go to the property. Building permit, that's what you have to get from your UDC inspector, and that's obtained through your township. So we do not issue those at the county. Again, those are for things that are habitable, and that's where they come and do the inspection of your footings, your framing, plumbing, electrical, insulation, all those type of things. That's all handled at the township by their inspector. We do a lot of work with POUT systems. What does POUT stand for? Private On-Site Wastewater Treatment System. We do have a whole list of acronyms at the end, so you don't have to remember that one. But what is a POUT? It's basically a way to hold and dispose of your wastewater when we don't have a municipal sewer. The villages are the only spots where municipal sewer systems exist, and Danbury, which is not a village, but they have their own sewer system in downtown Danbury. Holding tanks, like we were talking about today, those are pumped when they're full, and you have to haul it to a municipal facility or land spread it somewhere. And then other systems you have are conventionals, mounds, and those are all determined by the soil types, soil conditions that exist on the parcel. Here's just a sample diagram of what a conventional system might look like. It's just a basic, kind of shows water or sewage goes to the tank, solids settle out, liquids go out to the drain field, get filtered out. Once the sludge gets so thick, then that gets pumped out, transported away. Here's some different type of tanks. You have a concrete tank on the left, a plastic type tank on the right. We're getting really creative nowadays with a lot of sewer systems. Back in the old Craig days, right, it was a square, you know, gravel, and it was 20 by 30, and it had to fit here. Now they're, you know, easy flows, chambers, they're wrapping them around trees and getting all sorts of creative with getting them fit. Yep. Yep.
That fit in on the lot.
Yep. Yep. Here's, more of a typical rock and pipe type on the left. Geomats are becoming quite a bit more popular on tough, tight sites, because you can get so much credit, treatment credit, and you can downsize them quite a bit. So we've seen a lot of those go on the really small lots, going forward. We do have the Pelts maintenance program. Pelts are supposed to be service maintained. Depends on how long, what type of component you have based on the interval. So a holding tank is supposed to be service maintained once a year. Conventional mounds is every 3 years. And then there's special items such as like a pre-treatment device. Those are usually on a 6-month maintenance schedule. I think we only have 6 to 8 pre-treatment devices in the whole entire county right now. So those are not very common. They're expensive. That's why there's not a lot of them around. 11,537 pouch in the system as of the end of 2023. We mail about 4,500 reminder cards each year, so those went out. We usually try to send those out in May. If you got a green card, that just is a reminder that your maintenance is coming up. If you got a yellow or an orange card, that means you're on the naughty list. It means you're behind on your septic service or maintenance. Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
I've had some people ask me, you know, say they've gotten a second notice, but they don't know when the first notice was sent out. And so they got a second notice for like the sewer inspection.
Yep.
So they were wondering when were the first ones.
Yeah, I can't tell you. A lot of times it could have been the post office didn't deliver it. Yeah.
I've had a few people mention that, and then I've had some say that they had the sewer inspection done last year and they get another one this year.
And on the back of the card will typically say, if you're getting this card and you think it's an error, call your pumper, because they probably never reported it. Because they go into our system, they have special logins, and they can go in and reset those dates. And from what I hear, some of the pumpers say, I'm not reporting you to the county until you pay my bill. Which is however they want to operate, that's fine, but then we send out another card. And there was a pumper in Southwest Burnett that went out of business, and did not report, from what we were told, did not report 1 or 2 years worth of servicing for the hundreds of people that he did. So, and we don't know it was done, the system is just automatically generating the cards based on dates, so.
Because then one person that was telling me about this too, that their pumper, say they reported it, but they got, every time they go to log into the system, they gotta enter a new password.
Some of the pumpers maybe are a little technologically challenged, maybe.
I don't know if the system's hard to use or what, I don't know, you know, so that's why it was brought to my attention, so I just figured.
Call Benton, Curtis, all those guys, they have no problem with the system, and it literally, you could, from what I understand, they could literally have an iPad in their truck and report it. You literally click 5 or 6 boxes and you hit submit, it's like 1 minute to fill out the report.
Yeah, I don't
They have to search by address.
You can do it while they're pumping.
Yeah, they can do it while they're pumping if they want. That's why we try to do it where it's online. Before they used to, how it used to be done in the old days, Craig would remember this, is the pumpers would collect all those cards and then they would come in with a giant box and go, here you go, Sue, in the zoning office, here's 3,000 cards in this box, start hand entering them all into the system. Yeah, that was a horrible way to do it.
Sounds like there's a lot of room that your department can get a black eye on that one. There's a lot of things that don't happen, they're supposed to happen.
Oh, yeah, there's,
For you.
yeah.
Just a little bit of curmudgeon background here is, this whole thing was initially gonna be a state-run program, maintenance system. Us Northern County said that would be great. But counties like Waukesha, Eau Claire, and Dane, and other major counties that have this program and have their own system, didn't like what the state system was gonna do and opted out of it. And the contractors that were gonna do this statewide system said, we can't get those high volume, you know, southwestern, southern Wisconsin counties, and heck with it, we're not interested anymore. But it's still the governmental unit that through the legislature amending the code.
Interesting.
Became responsible, not the state. We're the governmental unit. And so we had to figure it out. We're up to speed now, but it was so 20 years of just the same problems that counties are trying to cope.
And we've had this online reporting system in place since 2014, 2015, so the first few years, yeah, it was a struggle for everyone, but now the guys that are in there, there was an update that happened a year or two ago, which they had to go in and reset their password once for that one update that they did, but, yeah, normally, most of them don't have any issue with it, reporting it.
Jason, can you use anybody, like a service provider out of Minnesota, or no? Like your little list, I think was just local people, like.
Well,
on the side?
I'm guessing you could get one as long as they have to be licensed in Wisconsin, though. They have to be a Wisconsin licensed septic hauler and,
I'm having a hard time getting people to call back, so I have an orange card and I apologize, but I have 2 orange cards.
well, that's,
Nobody's calling.
we kind of tell people too, we're like, man, if somebody wanted to start a good business, there sure seems to be a need, because that is a common theme.
Joke back in the day, it was a full employment act.
Yep.
Maybe beyond us, other counties in the state, when these programs first started to happen, there was a lot of opposition, really by pumpers, because they were killing the cash cow.
Yeah.
Paying and not having. You know, think about that kind of. And one last one, and I'll quit.
Oh, and I got something too.
Famously, one pumper, pumping up a lady out in Voyager, used the land spread on my dad's old farm. And so he was different, whatever, and someone came out and said, how much is it? It was like, $75. She said, that's too much. He said, okay, I'll put it back. And for the back of the truck, and she said, no, never mind, I just like the check.
Well, and, you know, the problem we also have too is there's no municipal systems in Burnett County take any of the waste. So you either have to land spread it, or you're trucking it to basically Rice Lake or Superior to get rid of it. And, you know, we're losing land spreading area because people don't want a lot of waste spread on their property. It does smell sometimes and different things like that, so.
They have to crop it.
Yep, they have to crop it, yep.
Be spreading on it forever. There's a bunch of which have to move the nutrient load of the code, the state code, and the DNR program, with one person in the whole northern region, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Running it, so yeah. It's, interesting, and they tried really hard to get the counties to take that on back in my day, and we told them, you cannot run fast enough to catch us to get a state program.
Yeah, we do not want that
If
one.
you want to apply to the land spreader place,
Yes, you have to do some soil tests and, different things like that. And you have to,
but it would get us pumped faster.
and you can't, zoning cannot regulate land spreading. That is a call we get about once in a while. Somebody will go, why is the so-and-so truck out spreading in this field next to my house? There's only requirements that as long as they're a certain distance away from a well and different things like that, they can spread it. You can't regulate it by zoning district.
Couple of quick ones. I can't remember, I had to have mound, or holding tanks, the mound program still required 24 inches. And he had hired a pumper, pump it, go across the road, and was spreading in the field right across the other side of the road from this house. How come I can't do that? And when we code changed so that we could reduce that mound separation to, based on soil science, and an arbitrary 24 inches, because the first guy in line to get to have a mound, right?
Yeah.
Paid that guy to do that. But the other element about that is, a man named John Melby, who worked for DNR, had this septage vision, which is, in and of itself kind of a funny term, but he wanted the pumpers assess the fee that they would return to the counties to fund the maintenance program. Pumpers, no, not interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
He managed to get that hired in her.
Speaking of that, there are a few counties that put like a $5 special charge on every tax bill if you have a sewer to pay for this program essentially. Because, you know, we're mailing out 4,500 cards, that's $2,500, you know, just in postage, let alone staff time and paper and all that
But
good
it's,
stuff.
but it's part of a statewide initiative.
Yep.
Funded, no.
Yep. Violations, so we investigate violations. This is another thing that, you know, gets, a little tricky once in a while. Most of our violations come in from neighbors or other concerned individuals. Or we, department staff, if we're doing a site visit, we see something, we will, jot it down. A lot of the sewer type things we're dealing with, you know, building things without permits, pouts issues, dump trash, some signs, dilapidated structures, you know, kind of all sorts of different things. We send out violation letters. There's only, if you're pumping sewage on the ground, that's pretty much an automatic citation. We're not gonna give you a warning letter. But most of the other things, we're gonna give you a warning letter. If you built a garage without a permit, you get a letter saying, hey, you need to get a permit. We send out about 200 violation letters per year, and we really only do about 10 or 15 citations a year. We're always trying to work with people to get them in compliance. That's our main goal. It's not to go sit in court and argue over things. Some violations we don't deal with. We're not the noise, firework, barking dog police. We don't regulate lights. If you call and say your neighbor's siding isn't done, zoning is not gonna care. If your neighbor's grass is not cut, we're not gonna care. Docks, cutting trees along like lot lines, property lines, parking things. If it's parking in a road, that's a sheriff's department, issue. And we don't cover stuff that's in the villages, cause they're covered under their own land use regulations and their own shoreline regulations, so.
Village Plan Commission.
Yep, yep. And we don't go out hunting for violations. I do wanna, mention that. Now, if we see something, we will deal with it. But we're not, I don't go out and say, hey, Callie, go drive around Clam Lake today and see how many things you can find wrong. That's not what we're doing. But if we're driving out to a site to do an inspection and we see something along the road, we're gonna jot it down and deal with it. But that's just typically how we operate. Office support, so there's pretty much two of us and then one vacant position. Tammy, vacant one, and myself. I consider myself office support just because I have my fingers in essentially everything. Here's Tammy. She's been with us since 2019. She has a business degree from Minneapolis Business College. She's pretty much your point of contact if you come in to the counter or call into the office. She's the one that's gonna answer the phone or deal with you at the counter. She processes all the permits, the starting process of it, not issuing them or Callie and all the staff do that type of work, but she takes the permit in, stamps the receive date, gives it to the right person. We enter all of our permits into Ascent, which is our permit tracking database. We scan them into Laserfiche. We're one of the few counties that have all of our permits online. You go to other counties, you have to call up the office to get a copy of the permit. Ours, it's all there for everyone to get 24/7. But that takes effort of having to scan that stuff and get it into that database. Payments, she does, sends reports every month to DSPS, Census Bureau. Survey information in the database, works on Lakeline's newsletter and basically keeps us all in line. There's my pretty face. I've been here since 2007. I have a bachelor's degree in land surveying, mapping science from St. Cloud State. So when I was first hired, I was the county surveyor, land information officer, and in charge of the land information department. And then when the zoning and land info got merged, and then I was lucky enough or unlucky enough, however you want to see it, to be given the zoning administrator job in 2015, land services director 2018. I have a survey license for both Wisconsin and Minnesota, and I'm a licensed soil tester and coastal inspector. What do I do? There's a whole list of different things I do. Like I said, I kind of have my fingers in a lot of things. My biggest one is probably dealing with the upset customers. Also dealing with, a lot of my time is the CUP, rezone variances appeals. I basically process all those applications, help them all through these public hearings and everything else. Work with the Board of Adjustment, get your guys' committee stuff ready every month. Land Information Council, deal with that a couple times a year. Brent's on that committee as well. I'm a rep on the Northwest Regional Housing Committee, review all the survey work that comes through, budgets, yeah, county surveyor, so a lot of surveying, office type work. I don't go out and do the field work. Comprehensive planning, land information plan. I go to municipal meetings if I'm requested to go to them. I do site visits, and then I'm the lucky one that gets to issue all the citations. Here's some stats I threw together for you guys. Here's permits by year, going back to 2001. So you can kind of see when everything was going crazy. Right here is the housing crash, 2008. Things were not good. Kind of picked up. COVID, and then, yeah, COVID's right here. So everything's kind of been back to high levels again since COVID. It hasn't slowed down yet. So here's sanitary permits by year, kind of the same trending stuff. Usually the sewer permits kind of go with land use permits. Roughly the same time frames and peaks in there. Here's some stats on, kind of look at this stuff every once in a while. You can see here's the addresses that each municipality had in 2014, and then how many they had in 2023. So you can see if it's yellow, that was over a 10% increase. So those you can kind of say are your townships that are getting a lot of address activity. That probably means lots of building type things. The green ones are under 5% increase, so those are the lowest of new activity essentially happening. Kind of threw some data in here about taxable parcels. This is parcels that are getting the first dollar credit by township. So that get a first dollar credit means you basically have an improvement of some sort on there, is how the assessor looks at that. And then claiming lottery credit, those are people that should only be living there, considered their year-round residents, because that's how you're eligible to get a lottery credit. Just can cite kind of some data to kind of see, you know, Anderson has 370 addresses, 325 improved parcels, but only 151 claiming lottery credit. So they got 100, almost 200 parcels that are not claiming a lottery credit. So those are probably maybe just a garage on a 40 that they own. Yeah, somewhere that they're not living year-round, or a cabin would be too if they're not year-round cabin owners. So here's kind of the totals at the bottom, you know, 17,000 roughly addresses, about 30,000 taxable parcels, 15,000 that have improvements, but only 5,500 claiming lottery credits. I threw some other miscellaneous stats in here. Since people, some maybe think I sit at my desk and twiddle my thumbs all day long. So I actually keep a call log. I started doing that in 2019. I got sick of people saying, you never called me back and da-da-da. And I'm like, fine, I have an Excel spreadsheet that I literally put in the date, time, who it was, and if you answered or we spoke or I left a voicemail. So here by year are how many phone calls I've had. 1,100 in 2020, 1,200, 23, I only had 827. Here's how many emails I've sent by year. So I send, those couple of years there, 6,000, 7,000. It's only been about 4,000. And these are total incoming emails that I get per year, roughly the 18,000, 20,000. Here are items that are office mails. So if someone were to say, well, you guys just sit and do emails and phone calls and you don't do anything else, these are items that are office mailed. So we're typically mailing 7,000 to 8,000 range of items per year. Now, granted, 4,500 of those are those cards, but that still leaves 3,000 or so things that our office is mailing. Letter, you know, only a couple hundred of that would be violation letters, but we do mail, each owner gets a copy of their land use permit mailed to them. So if we issue 1,700 permits, that's 1,700 things that we're mailing out. So where a lot of that number comes from.
So you don't twiddle your thumbs, you twiddle all your fingers.
Yeah, I know, right? I gotta sit at the computer all day long. So on the right chart here, I put in some revenue, expenses, and salaries by year. So this is again Department 19, which excludes Conservation Division because they're budgeted and report to a different committee. So here's, you can see our revenue from 2017 to 2023, and that's, revenue would consist of permit fees and grants, essentially, would be the revenue. Expenses, that's gonna be, you know, all the expenses run our department, and some of those years, like 2022, we had aerial photography and a LiDAR project. So, you know, that's why you'll see that number bump up. 2018, we again had projects that bumped those numbers up. What I thought was interesting though, is the Social Security FICA rate's been the same, 7.65% for all these years. So you can look and see that we're down, we're less staffed than we were in 2017. So you can see that, you know, our salaries in 2017 were roughly $400 and some thousand. Last year it was $276,000. So that's a couple people that were down. So, and that's with people that have left and they haven't been refilled over time. So, just want to emphasize this, that, you know, the department is not growing or anything like that. You know, it is merging with other departments, but the whole process is there is to consolidate services, eliminate redundancy, and different things like that to try to, you know, reduce our operating costs. Statutes. Here's all the fun different statutes that we deal with. A lot of 59 stuff. There's some 66 chapter about planning and solar and wind and communication towers. Chapter 70 for assessors plats. Floodplain, outdoor advertising, farmland preservation, airport zoning, chapters 145, 236 on platting, 281 navigable water, servicing, condos, nuisances, and publication of notices. So those are all the different statutes. So when you're bored and you can't sleep, you know, when you get this presentation, you can click and read one of those if you want. Administrative codes. These are all the administrative codes that apply to our different departments. Yeah, don't need to read them all. Those are the ones that we deal with. More administrative codes that we deal with. All those fun ones.
Let's go back one.
Yeah.
What's the difference between tourist rooming house and a bed and breakfast?
The state has slightly different requirements on that because a bed and breakfast is where food is being prepared for you versus like a tourist rooming house is where you're preparing your own food essentially. So I think they have some different regulations in there about probably like food related activities, I guess. The county doesn't get involved in that type of, we just require CUPs or don't for different things, but yeah. So I think the state has some different things about whether you're providing food or not. Yeah, what their license covers.
Was boarding house in the old days be one that served food?
I think so, yeah, old terminology for that, yeah. County ordinances, so here's all the ordinances that the Land Services Department oversees or has a portion that we oversee. We do a little bit of aviation ordinance because we have the airport height limit ordinance that we have to enforce. Chapter 18, the environment stuff, that's like the health, mainly that's the health department thing, but we get a little bit involved for some health related issues if they want us to. Chapter 22 is all floodplain. Chapter 30 is all land use. 45 is shoreline. Chapter 58 is all subdivisions. Chapter 70 is utilities. So those are all the ordinances we deal with. So I got put together 4 pages of acronyms for you guys. So, yes, there will be a test. I'm not going to read them all to you. You know, CUP, the common one, BOA, Board of Adjustment, CUP, Conditional Use Permit. A lot of these ones you're going to hear quite a bit on your sitting on this committee, but I do like the banana one, that one up there. Seem to have that one maybe happen a few times. GIS, Geographic Information System, LiDAR, Light Detection and Ranging, LOMA, that's a floodplain acronym for Letter of Map Amendments, LUIC, if that's you guys essentially, Land Use and Information Committee, some people say LUIC for short. You're also the Planning Commission, also the County Zoning Agency, so there's different statutes that call them different things, but you're all, those things are all this committee. NG 911, Next Generation 911, she is involved in quite a bit of that. NIMBY, I'm sure you guys maybe have heard that one, that's a common one that happens sometimes. PUD, you'll hear that one. Voyager's essentially a planned unit development is what Voyager Village is. What other ones we got here? SIP, Shoreline Incentive Program, that's more of the Emily conservation side of our department, but they deal with a lot of that stuff. Variance, VAR, VA, zoning administrator. So those are all your fun acronyms that you get to memorize. I just want to touch real quick on the Conservation Division. They do report to the Natural Resources Committee. They have their own separate budget, but they are part of Land Services, so I wanted to at least put them in here. They are one part of our big happy family. Dave Ferris, Emily Moore, and Sean O'Connell. Dave Ferris, he's been a conservationist since '86, a bachelor's degree in ag from UW River Falls. That's typically his job duties there on the left-hand side. Emily, she's the AIS coordinator and water resource specialist. She's been with us since 2021. She has a master's degree in aquatic science from Grand Valley State University. Those are her four main things that she works on. And then Sean O'Connell, he's a conservation tech. He's been here since 2021. Bachelor's degree in natural resources management from Northland College. And there's typically the items that he works on most of the time. So they don't report to this committee, but they are part of our department. So if you see them around, you'll know who they are. And then basically I just open up for questions. There's the contact, the general office email, and the general office phone number. But lots of fun stuff in there. And I will email this all to you later on today. So you can do it as you see fit.
Yeah. We have future agenda items. The first thing I have to do with that is we have received a comprehensive plan from the comprehensive plan committee, motion made yesterday. We need to schedule a public hearing on the comp plan, and we've been talking about that. But rather than add that to an uncertain agenda, I thought the best idea was to do a separate public hearing for this committee for the comprehensive plan. That way we won't have a potentially contentious or other long meetings mixed in with it. There will be a committee of the whole creation of the comprehensive plan on the county board in July. I believe that's July 18th. Right?
Yes, July 18th is the third Thursday.
So it should be after that. So the last week in July, yeah, would be the week when you want to do that. So, what is the following Tuesday?
23rd of July.
July.
Do you want it, is that the, we'd have to, can you verify that this room is open on July 23rd?
Talked about that in generalities without checking on availability of the day. It could be any day that week, really. It didn't conflict with anything else that we were all available for.
It's wide open that whole week.
Pardon?
There's no committee meetings that week at all.
That's what I was expecting, because it's that every week at the end of the month.
Yep.
So let's do that on the 24th.
23rd.
Would that be at 9:30, or would it be later in the day, or?
No, let's stick with the standard 9:30. I don't, no way to know, but I don't expect it to be a hugely attended public hearing. We need to have that date though, because we need a 30-day notice ahead of the East Comprehensive Plan law. A different kind of noticing than standard, public hearings for us, right?
So you want it at 9:30 or 9?
I go at 9:30 because it's one item. The land use committee always meets at 9. We could make it 9, whatever you guys want to do, I don't really care.
I would prefer 9, but.
Okay, listen, 9's good with me then.
What day was it?
I crossed off 9, and now I gotta cross it.
Go back to 9. Go back to.
I'd like to sleep till 9:30, because they have it at 10.
Craig, do you see that being like an hour meeting, 2-hour meeting, 3-hour meeting? What do you think of?
We do it at
It's hard for you to
all.
answer.
I'm guessing an hour.
Yes.
I'd be surprised. If it was more than
Okay.
an hour, but you never say, you learn serving in this committee, never say never.
Yep.
And I will try to more efficient, talk less.
I mean, the open house, there was, what did we have, 15-ish people, I think, is roughly what showed up.
It's really just a continuation of the existing plan. It isn't the first time we've ever done it or anything, but I never want to say never, because when you least expect it on this committee, when you think there'll be no controversy whatsoever, when the room gets filled up, right? We've all seen that. So that was part of the reason we thought we should just separate it and be done with it. We're going to need to do it once. And that'll put it on a track for the county board in August. Wanted to have, we'll have it after the comprehensive, or committee of the whole presentation on the 18th. So if we have some issues that come up at that, we can address them, public hearing, too. So, all in all, we needed to get that and get that scheduled today. Then we talked a little bit about policy regarding temper.
I'd like some
I think
clarification.
it's just to maybe put that on an agenda sometime. We add draft policy of the committee regarding extent of time for approval of camper permits. We also talk about the high-tech stuff, if maybe that won't be an issue if it starts to work better, but didn't have any glitches today.
Yeah, so I guess that was something that was a future agenda item too. Do we, want to, how do we want to keep going with all the call-in, all that type of stuff?
Today it worked.
Yes.
I'm not bothered by it when it worked. When it didn't work at all, and it hadn't worked for the BOA, that was causing real issues for them with their quasi-judicial, everybody's lawyered up scenarios, right?
That thing works well.
I like the idea of what you did here with the hybrid, because if you're trying to do Zoom, and you're trying to do a conference call, and you're up here, I mean, if somebody's gonna testify, I guess for me, I'd prefer they called in on a speakerphone, because that'll be picked up by microphones in here, and have it available for people to view online, but to make testimony via Zoom and do that, that's gonna be tough.
Right, well,
I like how we did this.
I think we just want to keep that kind of ongoing, but we have to, but we talk, because a lot of this is a carryover from the pandemic, when we were having to do it remotely, because we weren't even able to build it. And we continued it because it's nice for people to be able to phone in or whatever, right? But there were some terrible problems. We saw one. BOA saw multiple times. And that's why we were contemplating, we don't have to do that.
Yeah, but it was, it's just kind of a mess.
Yeah.
It does seem to work better in here. Is that your experience or? Yeah. Okay.
Because if you don't do, Zoom seems to be the issue, right? Zoom.
It was actually Laserfish, but I think if you weren't using it through, we'll use through Zoom, but this time we had the conference phone instead of not.
Yeah.
Seems like if we have a camera doing Zoom and have the microphone turned on for Zoom, at the same time that microphone's on, there's a delay, and then we got into the problem we had last time. You know, you can only have one microphone on, you can't have on both because there's a buffer delay there. That's what we were running into from my perspective.
That was the first time we ever encountered that.
Yeah.
Back when we were doing it years ago in primitive technology, it worked pretty well to have phone in.
Yeah, this is how we all first started at COVID, wasn't it? We started with the phone call in, and then we went to this
Yeah, there's some-
Laserfish thing,
There's
and
some technical
that,
down, it was, Laserfish was not.
no.
So,
And I don't know if it's a future agenda item, but I see our new corporate counsel is here, and I don't know exactly the rules of, you know, our access, or if we have questions, like during a meeting, if you have to, I mean, I would like an overview at some point of, you know.
Well, I'll explain how it was handled in the past, I guess.
Okay.
The corp counsel would come to our meetings if we requested it, is how Dave typically handled it. I know Dave did not like being put on the spot for like a legal opinion, like, okay, Dave, should we do A or B? And he'd be like, well, hold on here now, you're not gonna put me on the spot
About that.
at this point, so. Yeah, so I know that that was not how he wanted to operate, but he is available, or he was available for questions and all that stuff, but he wasn't gonna sit here and tell you yes or no decision right on the spot at the committee meetings.
the other thing is, I think it doesn't necessarily have to go through the chair. I did it on my own initiative a couple times, but I'd say, okay, Dave, I can see this being an issue, there's state law pertaining to this that we haven't dealt with before. Tell me what it means, what it says, so we make a report to the committee, so we're prepared to cope with it. But we did that, for example, what is our discretion regarding solar facilities? We asked Dave to get us some interpretation of what the law, because it's, again, state level preemption of local, or how much are we preempting? That kind of thing, I think you'll see us do, you'll get a head start on that, we won't ask you the data.
Gives me a chance to formulate a research response would be appreciated. Nate's, hoping that I can attend more regularly, this committee specifically, and then when invited to the other committees. I guess if Dave didn't have much of a voice in these meetings, that's what I would anticipate continuing unless requested otherwise, but providing any answer to a question that I haven't had the chance to look into, I may ask for some time to look into that.
And, you know, you never know, we could wind up with a situation where someone comes in with an entourage of attorneys and we say, we don't want to be unarmed, so we'd like you to come down and sit through this, find out, you know, and if you see us going astray, you know, hit me in the ankle or something, right?
Throw a donut at him, knock it off.
Whatever it takes, but you know what I'm getting at. You never know, and again, we've had fairly calm, orderly meetings recently, we had some pretty exciting ones. There was
It's a campground issue.
and then got under control, yeah. But you never know, never say never, that's the thing.
You still looking for input on future meeting agenda stuff?
Sure.
Okay. I don't have any specifically yet, but, there will be a couple of resolutions that I want to bring forward. Who is the best person to work with in drafting a resolution so it meets the requirements for the committee? Is it Jason directly, or is it you, or Nate, or how do we
Usually,
do that?
Wanda usually has a lot of resolution type.
Resolution to county board, that I would think all of the above. Nate needs to know, Wanda is caretaker of that, if it pertains to land use, it would be good to keep me in the loop to try to.
Sure. As far as the format of it, though, as far as actually writing it to be presented to the committee, that's something I'd have curiosity in knowing what the proper way of doing that is. And the other thing I would mention, this isn't really a future agenda item, but there was a list of bullet points up here that Jason had up on the screen that he, you know, we don't ask him to mention them. But there are a couple of things that I have concern on that I don't know that we're taking care of fair-handedly throughout the county. And you're aware of what they are. And if we could talk about that sometime, that'd be great. To make sure it applies to our Burnett County Comprehensive Plan before we go to the public hearing, it'd be nice if those things were included or considered, so. Oh, yeah.
Good point to that might be the committee of the whole institution. Sure. Do that. That would be the appropriate opportunity to talk to those, I think.
You know the next meeting date here already? July second, is that right?
Yep, July 2nd.
Just the next one.
That's the next scheduled public hearing for the normal zoning business.
We'd have July 2nd, and we'll have July 23rd, the comp plan.
August 4th, I think, or something like that.
Oh, August 6th would be the committee meeting after that then.
Anything further? We have nothing further, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Supervisor Bobber, second, by Supervisor Sherman, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Here, Brent.
Oh, don't run off, everybody. I gotta have you sign these resolutions real quick.
Bob, if,
Kate
will let us know when it works.
So I will,
Hey, Kim, I think I'm behind on these.
On the back of this.
That's gonna be your new Bob that will work, all of the opening one.